Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth Daily. This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning everybody. Welcome to Juma Private Game Reserve, here where we're sitting with Blacksmith Lapwing this morning, having our own chat about So welcome aboard to your very own safari life through African bush. So there we go. Good morning again, everyone. So we come to this position of just the north of the camp, of Kalago camp, sitting with 3 of blacksmith, a lapwing. The bee is actually chatting around here, where it was a visual of a Kalamba area around this area. So we're checking all roads here, and she hasn't come out. I believe she must be still in the block here. The grass is all jewels, so there is all grass is wet. Where she decides to lie down, maybe she could, but we're just gonna check a few roads to see if we get lucky. My name is Andrew this morning, and then I have Muscle on the camera. So we decided to come to this area just to begin our drive, just to see if we get luck with our leopard, Kalamba. It's still quite fresh morning today, and all grass is wet. Like I said, it's dew, they're all wet. Benefit, very nice benefit for all animal graze species and all browsers. Sitting on a temperature of 20 degrees at 68 Fahrenheit this morning, and then we believe it's gonna be all good, I think, the whole day. We're coming to you live from this position. Remember for communication to us as well, as we can ask questions through kids questions at worldearth.tv, and also on hashtag worldearth at FC, which is also on the YouTube channel, also on worldearth.tv/explorer. We would like to hear from you today. That's why we're going to be moving around here. We're going to check a few roads. Hopefully our Kalamba come out. She probably spent a lot of time in quarantine since she was seen yesterday far south of the quarantine there. She might have had a lot of movement last night during the night, hunting around, or spend time to their own territory. So while I'm doing that, I'm going to be taking you over to Pinda.
Good morning and welcome to and beyond Pinda Private Game Reserve. As you can see, we have found a beautiful female giraffe who's just being very obliging, or was very obliging until right now. I think she's about to disappear. We've got a gorgeous sunny day this morning, hardly any wind at all, and we are really looking forward to what we can find this morning. My name is Kim, and behind the camera we have Owen, and we will be with you this morning. So our plan is probably to head off to the western section of the reserve and see if we can maybe find some lion. There's been very few vehicles driving around there at the moment because we've had a lot of rain and the soil is quite muddy. So we're going to just pick our route very carefully and see if we hopefully find some sign of the pride of lion that were around that area. It's such a peaceful morning. I can't believe how we've gone from, really cloudy, rainy weather the last few days to this beautiful blue sky where there's not a single cloud. You hear all the birds calling this morning. So there's some more giraffe up ahead. I'm just going to see if we can get a better view of those. We're going to carry on heading to that western section, and in the meantime we're going to send you to another live location.
Good morning, everyone, from a very strange occurrence that we're experiencing right now. Oh my goodness. The impalas are all going mad, the wildebeest are all going mad, but I think it's just a little bit of early morning excitement happening. Oh, well, that's interesting. It looks like one wildebeest is being chased by the rest. I'm not really sure what's going on. Don't expect me to tell you what's happening. Hi everyone, I'm Mike Anderson. Behind the camera is Seb, and you've joined us at Eco Training Pridelands Conservancy, where we are on Impala Plains. And we wanted to start off the morning with some early morning cuteness with the 4 baby wildebeest now that are on this plain. But they've all run off and they're still acting crazy over there. And I don't really know. It's not easy for us to film, unfortunately. They've moved very far from us. And I don't want to move the vehicle now. But they're literally just... one wildebeest is being harassed by the rest of them. Chased up and down and back and forth. You can see at least one of the baby wildebeest down there amongst those ones. But there's like a lot of noise, a lot of chasing back and forth. So it might be that maybe one of the new mothers is being very protective of her calf and is just chasing any other wildebeest away from her. Or maybe it's a male. That's a very big wildebeest chasing a smaller one. Maybe the male is chasing off any young males. I'm not really sure what's happening, but it's very exciting. There's one of the tiny wildebeest, one of the fresh new calves. Some of them are a couple of weeks old now, or at least 2 weeks old. But yesterday we only saw 3, and this morning we see 4. Or I saw 4 young wildebeest calves. So there's at least one new one that might have been born last night. And so maybe that's why there's so much excitement. Perhaps it's just been introduced to the rest of the herd. That was exciting. And we saw 2 jackals as well, Seb and I. As we stopped here to look at these wildebeest, we saw 2 jackals, black-backed jackals running off. That could also be causing a little bit of alarm because although jackals are not voracious predators of mammals, or at least antelope species, a baby wildebeest is definitely something that they could bring down, especially a pair of jackals. And so that could also be causing the excitement. I doubt it. I think that the excitement is to do with that big male wildebeest and some of these calves, but I'm not really sure. As I said, they are doing something which I've never really noticed before. I've never seen such excitement and running around. It definitely looks like a male chasing other one. See that one there? That's quite a big wildebeest. I think that might be a male. And it seems to be following very closely other wildebeest. Isn't that beautiful? So lovely to see. And in this open clearing like this, it's very difficult for a predator to get anywhere near these calves in order to try and to catch them. The parents will notice them very quickly. Darcy Ann, totally agree. There is the bold and the beautiful. Oh, there's a spotted hyena right behind us, right over here. Oh my goodness. Okay, so this might also, I know Seb can't see it, it's right behind the vehicle. I just saw it in the rearview mirror. There's a spotted hyena that's coming straight towards where these wildebeest are. It's looking desperately at the wildebeest. Maybe all the noise of the wildebeest has attracted this hyena. Here it's coming now. It's got a limp. It's got quite a bad limp. But it's definitely heading towards where the wildebeest are with quite purpose. So I think that the noise of the wildebeest chasing each other around has caught the attention of this hyena, which is thinking that maybe there's something happening here. And as I said, there is a baby wildebeest that's probably born last night. And so that's a potential for this hyena who's injured, who's not potentially... Oh, sorry about that. I'm going to open the gate for one of the other safari people. My bad. But anyway, it's very interesting. Let's see how this develops. What is this hyena going to do? Still heading straight towards where the wildebeest are. It's now actually cutting a bit more right, but it keeps looking to the left. I wonder how it got injured. I wonder what caused that injury. We noticed this hyena, I think it might be the same one, Seb, we saw a day or 2 ago. So it might be that this hyena got itself into a fight with a lion. There was a lioness spotted on Pridelands last night, quite late. Perhaps that's what this hyena has been dealing with. Oh, very interested. I don't know that the wildebeest have spotted this hyena yet. Even though it is a big open clearing, they've been so preoccupied with what they were doing. Oh no, they definitely have. I can see them looking this way. They've definitely spotted this hyena. They've spotted The hyena. But they haven't striped the zebra yet. On its own, this hyena is not a formidable hunter. Definitely capable of catching small stuff like a baby wildebeest, but it will easily be chased by the adults. That's why it's just watching for the moment to see if there's an easy meal, maybe the leftovers of the birthing sac, the placenta maybe left on the ground, something easy to eat. Still walking straight towards the wildebeest slowly. Oh, and there's a jackal just to the left of where the hyena is. There's a jackal. There's the black-backed jackal. Wow, there's so much stuff happening right now. Oh, I wonder if the hyena's lost interest now that it's seen it's not an easy meal. I wonder if it's perhaps rethinking its whole game plan here. There's probably the big male. Let's see when this wildebeest looks towards us. Yeah, look how wide those horns are. That's the male, the territorial male probably of this area. And he's stepped right up to the hyena. He's come straight forward. In fact, a whole bunch of the wildebeest are coming forward, and that's too much for this spotted hyena to deal with on its own. How exciting. What a way to start the morning. I wasn't expecting that. I just wanted to see baby animals. And now we've got all this cool stuff happening. Ooh, the wildebeest turns its back contemptuously on this hyena as if to say, you know what, I'm not even interested. Look how it's drooling. Look how this hyena is drooling. It's very excited. It really wants to eat something. You can see the hip bones out there. I don't think this hyena has been feeding well since it got injured. And so it's probably quite desperate for an easy meal of some sort. Now the clan in the area is very strong, but it might be that this individual is not connected to the clan. It might be a nomadic individual. It's difficult to tell males and females apart. Females will generally be associating with a clan. A phenac, if this hyena tried to chase a zebra and got a full kick of a hoof in the face, it's devastating. Any predator that gets a direct kick from a zebra faces the risk of being having a broken jaw or even a broken neck. That's how powerful they can be. Any of the bones could be broken by a kick from a zebra. So very dangerous. Most animals will not attack a zebra. I mean, only really lion prides will really try and take on zebras or well-experienced lions. It's just too dangerous, especially for a solitary hunter. Now, as I was saying, this hyena might be a nomadic individual that's just come into the area. I can't tell the individuals apart. We just, unfortunately, with how thick the area is at the moment, it's not easy to follow them. This clearing is quite nice, but normally it's not so easy. And so it doesn't want to risk getting injured. It will severely limit its chances of hunting successfully. Well, it seems to be moving off now with the wildebeest tailing just to make sure that it leaves the area. And whilst all the dust settles, let's send you over to Tswalu to say hello.
Good morning and welcome to Tswalu. At the moment, we're positioned right on top of a dune crest, enjoying the sunrise over the Koronaberg Mountains. We started our morning a little bit earlier than normal in search of bat-eared fox. My name is JP LaRue, and behind the camera, we've got Davi. So for the first-time viewers who are not familiar with Tswalu, we are located in the Northern Cape province of South Africa, in an arid extension of a savanna system. The landscape is pretty much dominated by red dunes as well as the Koronaberg Mountains. It also forms part of a southern part of the Kalahari, also known as the Green Kalahari, which has received an exceptional amount of rainfall this year. I've personally never seen the Kalahari as green as it is. The dune system in front of us forms part of a dune system which stretches for roughly 800 kilometers in length and extends from east to west for roughly 150 to 200 kilometers. From here, we're going to continue on our search for the bat-eared fox and for its pups. and handing you over to Lauren in the meanwhile. And we're handing you over to Mike.
The spotted hyena stopped for a moment and sniffed at a bare patch of earth, where Seb and I were just saying that maybe that's where the wildebeest gave birth, but it didn't stick around long. Now, I don't know if that's maybe because it wasn't where it gave birth, or what often happens is antelope species will actually eat the afterbirth and the placenta to reduce the chances that the smell will attract predators. So perhaps it was sniffing around there, but there was nothing to eat, so it kept moving. But you can really see the spine is sticking up a little bit on this hyena, and the hip bones are sticking out, so it's not in great condition. It still looks okay. The neck is still nice and strong, and the shoulders. So it's getting some food somehow. I mean, they are scavengers after all, so as long as it's able to scavenge from some carcasses somewhere, it will do okay. And it hasn't got that sad expression or behavioral traits that very malnourished animals tend to have, lethargic and slow. This one is quite active, moving up and down all over the place. So I think as long as it can keep itself relatively fed, it probably will recover. Now, I was just saying to Seb a moment ago as well, I think this one actually might be a female, because when I just saw it briefly under its legs, it didn't have a very clearly defined penile sheath. So it could be a female that's given birth already, because I thought I saw what looks like a teat, but no definitive penile sheath. Now, females have a pseudopenis, which means that it looks like a male genitalia, but once they've given birth, it changes shape slightly, and so it doesn't look quite the same. So this might be a hyena that's given birth already once before. And it's an older individual, not super young, because you can see the spots are not clearly defined. They're starting to diffuse slightly around its fur, so it hasn't got the same brightness that a young hyena would have. Sniffing absolutely everywhere. There goes the jackal again. Also just following the hyena. Remember, jackals also spend a lot of time... Oh, you see that? Just sprayed a bit of urine there. Jackals are also territorial, highly territorial, so the pair that we've seen as a male and female, that will be making sure that there's no other jackals coming into the area. And they also scavenge quite a lot. They're proficient hunters of small things like mice. But if the hyena finds a carcass, then the jackal will swiftly dash in and steal a mouthful or two. Oh, you can hear another hyena calling in the distance. Clear, there are two jackal species on Pride Lands. There are two jackal species, so one is the black-backed jackal that you're seeing right now, and there is the potential, although I've never seen one, of a side-striped jackal. So side-striped jackals tend to prefer the slightly bushier areas, so you wouldn't normally see a side-striped jackal on the clearings like this, but along the drainage line where you can see it's bushier, that is a good chance to see a side-striped jackal. They both look quite similar. One of them doesn't have, or the side-striped jackal doesn't have the same saddle that you can see on the back like this one does. It's more of a greyish colour. I think it looks more like a wolf, where I think a black-backed jackal looks a bit like a fox. The side-striped jackal is very wolf-like in its appearance. Same size, though. Look at that with the ears forward, big ears, listening for any sounds of a rodent scratching about in the undergrowth. And not just rodents. They can also hunt for insects, lizards, birds and their eggs. They'll even eat berries and fruits if they can find them. They are very omnivorous, which also makes them very successful. And as beautiful as that animal is, unfortunately, was considered a pest in southern Africa for a long time, and still is, in fact, in farming communities. It was a shame, because they really are beautiful. Well, everything's calming down now, but we're going to stick around in this area. There's 2 more hyenas coming. Oh my word. Sorry, everyone. I'm getting super excited. We're going to stick around this area for a little bit longer and see how anything else might develop.
Thanks, Mike. This thing is amazing. Actually, we went to look for Lamba, where it looks like there where she went in, it's soaking wet. And I believe she must be maybe spending a lot of time in there. And then we're taking some other different routes where we come across 2 elephants. Looks like 2 young bull elephants feeding in this area where it happens maybe the rest of the other men, but not far from these 2 young ones. Where they're on an age where they would be pushed out of the herd. That happened every time they're anything from 14 years, 16 years, and they no longer follow their mother anymore. So this is probably what happened here. So they will get used to being separated. But usually take a long time for them to get used to it. Looks like he's just roosting his forehead against that dry wood. And they've been so quiet. Since we get here, they move slightly away from us, but they looks like they're going to come or head north across this Vietela axis. So I'm still on search. I'm going to go back to the area, maybe Galago Pen area there. If she decided to move to the road, then we come across her, bump on her on the road again. So let's see if we get lucky.
Good morning and welcome back to Tswalu. We just located on the Battiat Fox Den again, and one of the adults is sitting outside. We're still waiting for the pups to come out, and the sun has just started striking the entrance of the den. Hopefully after a long cool night, they most likely will come out and come and enjoy a little bit of sun before they go and hide inside the den again. So Battiat foxes is one of the dog species that we have in the Kalahari amongst black-backed jackal as well as Cape fox. All 3 of these species are monogamous, which means that they form pairs for an extended period of time and also for life. Unlike most animals which will just mate and move on. In yesterday's show, we just pointed out how large the ears are and how important these ears are in terms of locating prey. Approximately 80% of the prey that they take is in the form of insects, which they will be detecting by hearing. And quite often, if we do see Battiat fox in the distance busy feeding, their heads is quite low, with their ears cupped to the ground, busy listening for insects that's underground. These will be then rapidly dug out and then consumed. It's also amazing just to see how quickly they will direct those ears into a direction of where sound is coming from. As a small predator, you're also vulnerable to larger predator species. Therefore, immediately they'll be focused on what's going on in their environment. Oh, he's just saw something. Oh, it's the other bat-eared fox coming towards us from the left. I'm not sure if it's part of the same pair, but let's have a look. So normally we would reposition the vehicle to get a better view, but knowing the nature of being very, very skittish, it is potentially there that we might startle them. So we're just going to leave them to do their own thing. Seems if there's another bat-eared fox in the distance, we can hear the call that's been produced by another one, and they all both ran straight off into that direction. Shall we go and look? Yeah, let's go and have a look. We're just going to follow up and see what we were responding to and what the others are doing. And in the meanwhile, we're handing you over to Ngala, who is busy viewing lions.
Good morning and a very warm welcome to and beyond Gala, where we are sitting with the Birmingham Pride, finishing off what looks to be the remains of a wildebeest. See the young white male there with one of the legs in his mouth. Just licking the last bits of flesh off the bone. Got it by the hoof there. So my name is Marna, and with me on camera is BK this morning. So we're actually very close to our camp, our tented camp, right next to it. And these lions must have caught this last night, because like I said, there's not much left there. And we can see that they pretty much caught this wildebeest on the road. So there's a nice clearing next to camp here. And then a lot of, well, there's a big thicket around it right next to the river. So this is the perfect place for them to hunt. And normally, even though these wildebeests can't see well at night, and the lions have the hand, the lions still need to ambush them. So they still need to use some cover before they can go for these animals. And this is the perfect area for that. So we've tried riders here. They're just scattered around. So we've got, I think, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 animals around the remains of the carcass here, and then a bunch of them in the riverbed as well. Already fed. These guys are just cleaning up left. I think I heard that one of the rangers said that is a Ross male in the riverbed as well. And if that's the case, then he would have probably fed first, his brothers here, and both of them would have, they would have eaten first. And then the females and the youngsters will come in after that. Ooh, big belly. Look at that. Looks like he's done. So there is a little, a puddle of water a little bit further in. Closer to the riverbed, so I think that's probably why the rest of the pride headed in that direction. After this meal, you can imagine that they'd be quite hungry, or something like hungry, thirsty. I think that's where this young male is heading as well. Michael's asking if the mother of the young white male has shown signs of being an estrus again. Michael, yes. We actually have. There's one lioness that she's about to give birth. It should be any day now. She is denning at the moment. And another one of the females also an estrus. So all of these females have that white gene. They're all related. And the Ross males are still with them. And as we know, they also carry that gene. So there is a good chance that, we might see more of these white cubs popping up. Listen to him calling. Making soft contact calls as he's walking towards that puddle there. There are a few members around the water that we saw earlier. Let's see if they come out. No, they didn't. But yes, that's a very, very exciting for us. I can't wait to see these new cubs. And like I said, it should be any time now. We actually saw that specific female, that we saw mating in September. So around mid-September was the last time I think we saw her with the Ross males. And normally it's about 110 days before they'll give birth. So fingers crossed. How nice is that? That's one of his brothers. Two young males there. So beautiful how the manes are coming through. You can see on the neck, it's quite fuzzy. And then that little tuft of hair between the ears on the head, like a little mohawk. Right, we're going to spam, see what these lions get up to, and we're going to send you over to Lauren.
Good morning, everyone, from the other half of the team here at Djuma Private Game Reserve. Now, not such a pleasant sight, but this is the small little lamb on Gowrie Main that we believe belongs to Sibui, or at least her trio. And she was on it last night. Can you believe it? She came here and she was feeding. My name is Lauren, and I do have Simon on camera today. And just as I had Klalamba, Sibui was here. Not her cubs, not her mapinpan as they call them, Shasha and Langa. It was just Sibui alone. Now, they are said to have 4 kills, which is spectacular, really. Just like Kalamba, they've got a bit of a pantry going on, so we thought it was worth coming down here, but I can't see any signs of her. She's definitely feasted. This impala not only has moved trees, it's also no longer a full carcass. So we thought we'd come down here and at least look for Sibui. It would be such a lovely sighting to see her and her 2 cubs. But no sign. And this is Little Gowrie, so we're not able to traverse here at all. She may come back. We'll hang around the south today. You never know, she may get hungry and decide that this is the one of 4 that she wants to eat. I mean, when you've got that much food, you really, really never know what one you're going to have a taste for. But Kalamba also stayed around quarantine, so I think Andrew is furiously looking for her this morning. She still hasn't touched that other lamb that's up a tree. The mysteries that are unfolding around Djuma right now. That's not the most pleasant sight. We're not going to keep you looking at it. We will continue to bumble, scratch around the area, see what else we can find. But if I hear any updates about Sibui, we will be back. I really do want to spend some time with them. So I'm going to bumble on, and you guys are going to go across the Pride Lands.
So all has calmed down sort of, except for this one fairly young hyena, which is nervous of the slightly larger one. So the wildebeest moved off, so did the zebra and the jackals. These hyenas have decided to rest now on the open area, nice and cool, in the nice moist grass with all the dew and condensation from last night. The lion's calling in the distance, but very far away, so nothing to concern these hyenas. And it seems like this was a small group that was maybe just roving through the area when they heard all the commotion from the wildebeest and came to investigate. I wonder what this one has seen now. Maybe nothing. You can see the spots on this one are much brighter than on the other one, so it's a bit of a younger hyena, I would suggest. Maybe a male, because it looks a bit smaller. See that? Look how long that neck is. The neck is, I'd say, almost half the length of the entire body. Dizzy, they definitely could. They definitely could kill a jackal easily if they could get it. I mean, jackals are very fast and nimble little creatures. And if it did catch the jackal, in all likeliness, it would eat it. Because, I mean, food is food at the end of the day, and energy is energy. But I think a hyena would spend a lot of energy trying to chase down a jackal. And jackals live underground. They've got dens, so they could easily, just like a hyena, run into its den and then be really well hidden and difficult to get to. So could they? Yes, Dizzy, they could. Would they? Probably not. The energy used to chase this thing around and then dig it out of a hole is not as much as it would receive back from eating it. And it's not a threat, it's not really a threat at all, and there's plenty of other food to be eaten. So I don't think that they would really do that. I mean, jackals are certainly cunning enough to evade hyenas. Both are very intelligent animals. And jackals are brave to boot, because you see them nimbly rushing in between the legs of lions and hyenas and even leopards to snatch bits of carcass. This one definitely has the attitude of a younger hyena. Do you see it's walking up and down all over the place? The other two deciding just to rest and sleep, and this one's definitely just up and down, wandering, bored. Play with me. See how well camouflaged they are. So now, although hyenas are not ambush predators, you can imagine that they might let something unexpected or something unaware of them wander a bit closer before jumping up and chasing them down. They're very, very high stamina animals. They can chase over long distances. So they don't really need the element of surprise if they are going to hunt. They just lope across the savannah on those long front legs with a really rocking sort of run that uses much less energy than a gallop. Eventually catch them. I saw a hyena once running across the open areas in Mashatu. It's in southern Botswana, and it ran for about 2 kilometers at an incredible pace. It was amazing. Jumping castle. Hello again. How often do hyenas have to hunt? Well, I mean, I guess it's like any animal, as often as it needs to. If it's got a full belly and it's eaten a full meal, let's say lions killed a buffalo and ate only half of it, and then the hyenas had the run of the rest. Once they finished that, if they were definitely 100% full, they wouldn't need to hunt for many days, maybe 4 or 5 days. However, they are opportunistic animals, incredibly so, just like all the predators. And so if the opportunity came up and there was meat to be had, an easy prey or a carcass, they would go and eat that as well. They'll gorge themselves until they're stuffed and then wait. And then as soon as they've got a bit of space, gorge themselves again. They can't afford to miss an opportunity. Look at this hyena's very strange attitude towards the other two. See how it's got its tail tucked between its legs, and it sort of comes in and then jumps away as soon as there's any movement. It definitely seems like either a male or a younger hyena. It's definitely, I think, submissive to the other two. But yes, so that's why these hyenas came rushing in. I mean, look at these ones. The other two are in great condition. The one of them was a bit older and had hip bones sticking out, but as soon as there was a potential that there was food, they came rushing in. I seem to be all calm now. They're still every now and again putting their heads up and listening around the area. Remember, we did say that there was a lioness spotted late last night on Pride Lands. So perhaps she is still around. It might well be our famous Lagatha. We haven't seen her for a bit. So if we do find that lioness this morning, we're going to probably leave these hyenas in the next little while and go and adventure and explore around a bit. And if we do find that lioness, which would be amazing, if she's got a big scar on her head, it means that it's most likely to be Lagatha, because Lagatha does have a scar over her right ear. So from one awesome predatory animal to another, go over to Tswalu with some bat-head foxes.
Welcome back to Tswalu. One of the bat-head foxes just returned after it seemed that they chased a stranger away from the area. So we're just waiting to see if they'll come a little bit closer, and we're still in the hope that the pups will actually come out of the den. So in the meanwhile, just a correction on something that I slipped up on a little bit earlier. In terms of their prey choices, 80% and more of their prey consist out of beetle larvae, where the remainder of their prey actually includes things such as termites, scorpions, and a number of other insect species. As mentioned yesterday, they also take moths. So these little guys are also incredibly valuable to farmers who has unfortunately not seen their value in the past and actually has hunted them in fear that they might take livestock, which they don't. So one of the estimated figures that they've provided is that they can feed on as much as 40,500 termites in a single year. And in some cases, in certain farming techniques, termites can be destructive. But as in a natural environment such as this, they also have an incredibly valuable role where they act as food source for species such as bat-head fox and a host of other mammal species. And another important function what they fulfill is that of recycling of nutrients and minerals, something that is not abundant within an ecosystem such as the Kalahari. Good morning, Chris. To answer that question, I'm not sure who's got the best hearing, but you're 100% right in terms of they have good hearing. They both have got fairly large ears. And we also see with African wild dog that they do a similar thing as when they call, that they keep their heads down with their ears to the ground so that they're more accurate in pinpointing where calls come from other dogs when they do contact call as well. I'm not 100% sure if there's ever been studies done on who has got the best hearing, but just to give you an idea that certain species of animals like lion can detect calls of other lions over distances of 8 kilometers away. In the past, I was fortunate also to join certain research projects where a speaker was put up, and with the speakers, they would call in lion, and that was a distress call of a buffalo that they would play. and these would often attract lions from anywhere between 8 and 10 kilometers. And meanwhile, we're going to hand you over to MARNA, who is currently still looking for lion.
So we've managed to loop around. And we've got a better view of the carcass now. One of the young females, she's got the head and what looks like the spinal column there. That's pretty much all that's left here. This young white female in the front here, she's been trying to to join her, but she keeps growling at the white female every time she tries to approach her. I think she gave up. She's laying down now. Not too much left there. She's just trying to get the last bits of meat that's in amongst the bone there on the spine. You just see the horns there as well. And as I said earlier, it was a wildebeest. So they caught this animal right on the rig. So we can't get it in frame now, but is where they actually caught the animal. You can just see a big pile of stomach content. So pretty much just a big pile of grass with lots of flies and even one or two dung beetles already collecting some of that and rolling it off. So usually when they catch an animal, they'll some of them will have it by the neck, just to try and suffocate it. Maybe one or two of them might go also to try and suffocate it even quicker. And then the others will start feeding, and they'll usually go for the softer bits, so either under the tail or the belly. So a lot of the times they'll open the belly and they'll take out the stomach, and you'll see that laying on the side. And if it's a small carcass and a big pride, you'll sometimes even see one of the lions going for the lining of the stomach. Otherwise, you'll see that laying there for quite a while, and the hyenas might get it. But the lining of the stomach is gone, so I'm sure one of the lions got it. Or one of the lions ate it already. No sign of any hyenas in the area. We did, however, see a little jackal in the background. Coastside is asking how long the pride will spend around this kill. Coastside, they probably won't be here for too much longer. I'm sure they all have full bellies now, so at least for the rest of today, they'll be around this area. Like I said, water close by, and the rest of the pride's already in the riverbed, which is just about 50 meters from where we are now. So these lions we're looking at the moment, they'll probably just go join them in the riverbed, and then they'll just sleep there for most of the day. And maybe tonight when it gets cool again, then they'll keep moving. I mean, they don't really have any reason to move during the day. Now, please, they've got water, they'll shade to the river. So there's no reason for them to move. Only thing that might get them up is if there's a large herd of elephants or something that moves through the area, then they might just move, but they also won't go far. They'll just move out of their way. If it was something bigger, maybe like, a buffalo or something like that, then they usually stick around the carcass for a bit longer because there's a lot more meat. But something like this, I probably caught this late last night, and it's pretty much already finished. But with there being so many lions in this pride, we've also been seeing, even when they do catch buffalo, it takes them a day and a half, and that buffalo is finished. And I think it's also because of these young males. You know, they're just over 2 years old now. They've got big appetites, so they're eating a lot at the moment. See, this young male, this young white female has perked up again. She's looking at the carcass. She really wants to get in on it. But like I said earlier, that other female, she keeps, listen. She keeps growling every time she comes closer. It's not like this. Whoops. I like that little roll she did there. Okay, clearly she's not welcome there. It's not like she hasn't had anything to eat. I saw earlier when she stood up, she also has a full belly. Okay, she's giving up again. That's quite mean though. And to herself. So this one we're looking at the moment, she's about the same age as that the white male. It's also just over 2 years. Alright, we're gonna sit with them for a little while longer and we're gonna send you off to Kinder. Should we go with the... Welcome back to Andeon Pinder Private Game Reserve. We have decided to change our plan this morning and head into a different area, maybe look for some leopard or cheetah. And just take a slow drive, stopping at a few watering holes along the way. We've come across this one and met with quite an interesting sight. There is a crocodile in here with a section of a bit of a carcass that seems to be stuck on top of his head, but he's just gone under the water at the moment. Luckily we've got some birds. Oh, there he is. He's just in front of that yellow-billed stork. You can see the top of the carcass there. You can see that little leg poking out, surfacing right in front of the yellow-billed stork. It's quite funny to see how the yellow-billed stork is not even slightly worried or perturbed by this. Now, I think what's happened is this is a bit of an older section of carcass. And probably an impala that he's caught a while ago and is hooked onto a rock or something at the bottom of the watering hole, allowing it to decay. And it's a problem for crocodiles in these watering holes when there's not a number of crocodiles, because it's very difficult for them to actually rip bits of the carcass off. Because normally what they do is a few crocodiles will come in and pull the carcass apart from separate angles. And that way they get that opposite force, which allows them to rip and tear it. If they don't have an opposite force, you can imagine there's not much leverage for them to pull things off. They end up just swimming in circles, holding this carcass. So this one would have had to let it decay quite a bit before we could start trying to pull off bits. And I think when he tried to fetch a section of the carcass now, some of it's gotten hooked on his back onto those scales. He's actually struggling to get it off. We saw him moving around quite a bit earlier, probably trying to shake it off. And now he seems to just have accepted the fact that he's got a little bit of a weird hat this morning. It's the yellow-billed stork staring where the crocodile last was. I'm slowly retreating from that section. Just next to that yellow-billed stork. Oh, there we go. Here he is back up. There's a whole lot of fish around this crocodile as well, and I'm wondering if they're trying to feed on little bits of decaying flesh around him. We've been seeing a lot of bubbles as he's been swimming through the water. I think there's a few things that are trying to nibble off the sides there. Or it's possible as well as the crocodile comes closer, they just try to get away. KB, thanks for your question. Yes, if crocodiles have the chance, they will store multiple carcasses. Very much whenever they get the opportunity to hunt, they will take it. I'm sure you've seen those massive crossings in the Masai Mara, and those crocodiles will actually make quite a few kills and store them during that great migration. Generally, that's the only time they have during the whole year where they will hunt successfully. So they will try and store as many as they can. It's quite a sighting, eh? You can see that beautiful reflection of the yellowbilled stork, and you just see that hoof pop up every now and then. See, there we go. He's now churning around a little bit. Feel like this is the crocodile trying to do a bit of a spin. You can see all that movement in the water. Go ahead, Grant. Oh wow, look at that. Stand by, Grant. I'll contact you just now. He actually tried to flick it up. I think he managed to swallow it a bit there. Unbelievable. How amazing is that, hey? Just shows you sometimes the luck and timing of being out in the right place at the right time. Just threw that little bit of carcass up in the air and caught it. It's absolutely spectacular. So I think what we'll do, we might stay at this watering hole for just a little bit of time and see if something else comes down to drink. In the meantime, we're going to send you over to Lauren and see what she's managed to find this morning.
We've came across a lone bull here, a much older bull. He was splish-splashing in this tiny little water hole close to Treehouse, which is overflowing. And now he's enjoying some delicious grass. Breakfast time. You can see he's got dark stains coming from these sort of temporal glands. Or temporal ducts. Hello, I see you. You're so very lovely. And that tempora and the stuff that comes out of the glands actually contains protein and lipids, including cholesterol, a lot of cholesterol, phenols, cresols, and all sorts of other derivatives in there. It's a very specialized compound. And it's sort of said that older bulls, especially in must, will secrete more heavily and persistently from their enlarged glands. And because the glands are so swollen when they're in must, it can actually alter the shape of the head. It makes him seem larger and even more impressive than he already is. He's a big boy. Now, just an update, Mr. Tinganana was seen just a little bit west of Djuma on Triple M, which is our boundary, and I wonder if he's going to head east, and I wonder if he's going to end up at Tlalamba's Christmas present. So I think I'm going to go back in and just scratch a little bit around for Tingana. Bless me, sorry. If he does head to Juma, if he heads to quarantine, he's going to pick up on the scent of her and the scent of kills. It wouldn't take him long to sort of end up directly at that little lamb in the tree. Bless me, sorry. I don't quite know what's making me sneeze. But this bull is not in must. He's not shown any of the must behaviours. He doesn't smell. I mean, he smells, but it's not the must smell. Josh, you're saying you love the bull elephants. Me too. Let's see if we can go round a bit, Simon, especially the older ones. The older ones just have this essence. They have this energy about them. They make themselves known to you, but it's very gentle. It's the younger bulls that are a little bit of a handful, or possibly more than a handful. But the older bulls, they just have this aura of just wonderfulness about them. Hello, boy. I know. You're opening your ears to me to show me how big you are. But you're already very big. Much bigger than I. But the very, very old bulls are my favourite. The ones that are really old. I enjoy spending so much time with them. He's heading down to another waterhole. Elephants must be overjoyed at this time of year. There's just water everywhere. I think we're in for another hot day. Another hot, sticky, uncomfortable day. Okay, we're going to let this bull get on with his day, and I'm going to head back into the centre of Juma and scratch around for Tingana.
An ever-increasing part of the global population is losing its connection with nature. Wild Earth is here to reduce people's stress and anxiety, allowing you to escape into nature even just for a few hours a day. However, Wild Earth is expensive to run, and we need help from you to keep this ship going. Wild Earth Explorers gives you the opportunity to be part of a program that supports the sharing of nature with the world.
I am David. I come to you live every day from the Mara Triangle all the way in East Africa. My favorite animal in African wilderness is the lion. Lions, here in the African wilderness, I call them kings of the jungle, because in general, they are always up there while they control the savannas of Africa.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth. Wild Earth is launching our brand new Explorer program with an opportunity to win a very special Wild Earth expedition. The lucky winner will get a behind-the-scenes Wild Earth experience at the magnificent and beyond Ngala Tainted Safari Camp. The prize includes a 3-night stay for you and a friend with a chance to sleep out in the unique Ngala treehouse. Become a Wild Earth Explorer and stand a chance to win this and many other prizes. Terms and conditions apply.
My name is Ross, and I'm a field guide at and beyond Pinde Private Game Reserve. I love getting questions from guests on Wild Earth because I love sharing and learning information about nature with new people, and it also makes me feel like you're all joining me in real life. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit your question below our live feed.
So as you can see, we've decided to stay with this crocodile for a bit. And it's quite the scene. I think what happened earlier was he managed to break off a chunk of that carcass and is now trying to break off other chunks. See, it's taken it down again. He's managed to get it off its head. They're still sort of picking it up and trying to toss it around, so we're just going to keep focused in on that area. I've got a whole lot of swallows that are coming in and out of the shot. really stunning. They just keep diving down and getting a little bit of water in their bills. Here we go. You can see the movement again. I think the rest of that leg is just somewhere on the bottom of that watering hole right in front of him. He's diving down to get it, and then he's got to use quite a bit of force, sort of flick it out, up and out of the water, and try and throw it at an angle to tear a little bit of flesh off of it. You can see all the churning that's happening in the water at the moment. There it is. He managed to grab off a chunk there again. And something like this is so rare because crocodiles do not feed often during the year, especially not on something big like a mammal. You know, they've got to have the exact right position to be able to pull something like an impala into the water. You know, animals are very wary of crocodiles. They know that they're threats. They approach the water very carefully. They often drink just from the outskirts, you know, not too close to the water's edge. So if there's a few animal tracks that are filled with water or a small little peninsula, they'll try and drink from there, where the crocodile is not able to conceal himself too well. I mean, he's got to be pretty much underwater completely in the right spot and have something by chance come and drink right there for it to be able to make a successful kill. So this is really rare to see, to actually be feeding on a bit of that carcass. As I said, many crocodiles only make, you know, a successful kill once a year. Jerome, thanks for your question. I have to be honest, I'm not exactly sure on how great it is. I can imagine it would be very good. You know, every animal is adapted for its own specific needs, and the crocodile would need to have pretty good eyesight in the water. But then again, I'm sure, you know, factors like visibility, regardless of how good the eyesight is going to affect it. You know, there's a lot of murkiness and quite a bit of sedimentation in this water, so I think even if he did have really good eyesight, wouldn't be able to see too far in the water. And here the Egyptian geese making quite a racket. He's actually just hopped on right into the top of that dead tree in the middle of the watering hole. There's an old white-breasted cormorant's nest that's in the middle there. And you can see it's quite interesting that the whole lot of village weavers have chosen to make their nests off of the sticks of that white-breasted cormorant's nest. It's a very smart strategy because they try and hang their nests off of, you know, little sticks that overhang water. Anything that is very difficult for a snake to get up, because they don't want the snakes to come and feed off their eggs or feed off their chicks. So that's why they strategize and put it on things like that. So these ones have actually done a really good job. And you can see a lot of those nests have little tunnel entrances. There are some with tunnels and some without. And the reason they've started adapting to putting in those tunnels is that there's a horde of birds that parasitize them, just like the cuckoos, the Deirdre's cuckoo in particular. And parasitize means that they come in and they lay their eggs in another bird's nest so that they don't have to raise their own chicks. So you actually see village weavers and a whole lot of birds feeding these chicks of a clearly different species, but they don't seem to ever notice. And it's quite unbelievable. You know, the benefit for the cuckoos is that they can then lay a numerous amount of eggs, and they don't spend any energy themselves taking care of the chicks. Now this whole tunnel will prevent it because it makes the entrance a bit more narrow, just big enough for a village weaver to fit into, not quite big enough for a cuckoo. So that's how they've adapted to combat the problem. As you see, some have sort of developed that strategy, some have not. You see that there's some green nests and some older nests, and the reason behind that is that when a female comes in to decide which male to lay her eggs with, she inspects the nests, and the males will hang upside down and display for her. And if 5 or 6 females come across at once, you can actually see the male's doing the display now. There's one doing the display. It's a few of them. So if 5 or 6 females come across and they do not select the one male's nest in a row, he will actually cut the nest off himself and start again. And that's why you can see there's some older ones which have already been selected by females, and some new ones which probably the males built in order to be a bit more attractive to the females. Oh, Laramoa, exactly. It is wonderful to see a whole lot of different birds. That is the beauty of coming to watering holes. You often do get a numerous amount of birds. In fact, on the top left, you can see the pied wagtail, that very white and black bird. It's busy pruning itself there. Really nice one to see around the watering holes as well. Called the wagtail because as it walks, it wags its tail, which is a very distinctive feature of that species. You see the sandpipers that walk along the watering edge also do that, have that very distinctive feature. See, if we go down in between the two dried up trees, there's a white, black and grey bird on the bank behind them. That is a blacksmith lapwing. Also often find those around watering holes. So a lovely array of bird species. And then if we go to the left of that yellow-billed stork, there is a bird with a very white head. It's busy pruning itself. It's got quite long, greeny coloured legs. Long, thin bill. It's called a common green shank. Oh, that crocodile's up again. It's just gone down. I'm waiting for it to pull that carcass up again to just give us another great toss into the air. But it might be that it's actually fed enough now. It's lovely to see it coming up so often though. Starlight, I think they are able to navigate quite well just with their usual senses that we sort of are quite used to, you know, just by using their sight and their touch. I don't think they have any sort of echolocation or anything like that that enables them to see too well. I imagine that their eyes are quite well protected from the waters. They don't affect their eyesight, so it doesn't affect their eyesight too well. But I can imagine just those two senses, you know, sense of smell underwater, you won't really be able to have. can see it's churning around again. There we go, it's got another chunk there. Actually saw his throat moving there. Saw a great big swallow. It's wonderful to see so much of this crocodile, because they normally can hold their breath for up to an hour, so you often see them poke their head up and then go back down again, so you don't often get such a show like this. So I think we're incredibly lucky to have stumbled across this morning. We'll sit here for a little bit longer, but in the meantime we're going to send you back to Ngala with their pride of lions. So we've looped around in the riverbed and found the rest of the pride. Those two little cubs have been causing a bit of trouble. Walking to all the adults that are sleeping. I don't think that's on the agenda for them at this stage. You normally see that with the youngsters. They're usually quite active while the rest of the pride will be sleeping. Oh, I see the one has passed out in the background there. And we've got the young male here. So the one that's on the right-hand side there. The 4.5-year-old male that doesn't seem to want to leave the pride. He's here this morning as well. I actually haven't seen him in quite some time. And funny enough, one of the Ross males right next to him. Fast asleep. Doesn't seem to be too worried about him at this stage. And that young male also has a full belly, so it looks like he's been feeding with the pride. What a beautiful view in the riverbed. It's nice having them out in the open like this. Perfect spot, and it's so nice that it's overcast this morning. Otherwise, they probably would have been on the bank already in the shade. LT, there are 18 members at the moment, including the Ross males. So quite a large pride, but hopefully pretty soon we'll have some more young. Like I said, that one's currently pregnant. She should be giving birth very soon. But yeah, we've been seeing a lot of change in this pride recently, especially with that one female with the two 9-month-old youngsters. She's been spending a lot of time away from the pride. And also a bunch of the females have been, they've been all over the show. Like we've been finding fragments of the pride all over, and that's not common, especially for the females. And normally when they're denning, they'll move away from the pride, either by themselves or one or two of the females might do that together. But yeah, it almost seems like they might split up, and a lot of the times when the pride does get to this size, or when it's really big, then they might split. And this did happen a few years ago. I mean, you might be familiar with. Whoa, what happened there? It's like he was having a bad dream, and then when Nicky started the vehicle, he just got a fright. But yeah, it happened a few years ago. You might be familiar with the Birmingham Breakaway Pride. So they all used to be one pride, and I've actually seen them all together once where there were two buffalo carcasses, and there were 26 lions together. They all fed, and then a day or two later they split up again. So we'll see what happens here, especially after this, this female gives birth, and then the next one as well. Should be quite interesting. Yeah, this young male's actually looking pretty good. I know the Ross males have been fighting with him. About a week ago, they got him again. And I saw a clip from one of our guests where, yeah, they had him by the back leg, almost like they were playing tug of war with him. But geez, he just doesn't want to leave. And he seems fine. He's a tough one. Now we're really hoping that when the young lions, the young males that are in the pride, so the ones that are just over 2 years, 2 years and about 3 or 4 months, once they leave in about a year or so, I'm hoping that this male will leave with them, if he's still around by that time. I know a year's a long time, especially for him at this stage, being bullied by these Ross males. It looks like the rest of the pride, they're also coming down to the riverbed now. The ones that we were watching up there. There's a young female, one of the young males. I actually saw the other young male with the his mouth. We'll see, they'll probably come down just now. And that's what these lions are looking at now. Ross male also glancing over. Interesting that they were carrying the carcass down here. Normally they just leave it. Once they're finished with it, and the hyenas will come and clean. Clearly haven't had enough to eat. But you can see all of these lions in the riverbed. And normally when they're around the carcass, they just gorge themselves. They don't know when the next meal will be. Arnold's asking how often does the pride break? Arnold, not very often. I mean, this is, like I said, it's only when the pride gets really big that this will happen. And this happened quite a few years ago. So yeah, almost 5 years ago now, and then they'd already split. But I saw them coming together once after that. So yeah, it's not often. But I think because this pride at the moment, it is bound to happen again soon. You can imagine, with 18 members at the moment, I mentioned earlier how even if they catch a buffalo at this stage, it only takes them a day or a day and a half to finish all that meat. And then there's also a lot of competition, especially with cub dangerous, because even the adults and the sub-adults, they become quite hostile around a carcass, and they could seriously injure the youngsters trying to get in, trying to also feed. So if there isn't enough space for all of them to feed around a carcass, then, it becomes a bit of a problem. And with this pride, you often see, after they've fed, like a lot of the youngsters have nicks and cuts on their faces and their ears just from fighting over the carcass or fighting for a position around the carcass. These are two sisters, so the young white female and her sister just playing on the bank there. You see how dirty that white lion is, her front legs and her head, neck area from feeding. So the line with the carcass is just off to the left there. It went into the shrub. I could actually see either a young male or that young female we saw feeding earlier. Jeez. Nice seeing them so active. A lot of the times when you find lions during the day, they're just sleeping, passed out on their backs. It's nice seeing them chase each other around like this. It's so beautiful. There's a little string of stars around her in the river bed. Those little flowers. Actually looks like she is defecating while she's laying down there. Look at that. That's very lazy. I'm really tired from that little run, hey? And she's panting, but also her belly is very full, so all of that food pressing up against the diaphragm, making her pant like that. Oh, she's coming for her sister. Well, that's good for them to play like this, you know. She see her coming from the back and going for the rump, trying to get her down. That's good practice for when one day she has to hunt with the... Look at that little one on the left, watching the other youngsters play here. All right, we're going to sit with them for a little while longer, and we'll send you off to one of our other locations.
Thanks. So we couldn't actually get luck with that Lalamba female leopard, our princess. So we actually decided to come on the northern the boundary, where now we find it looks like a whole pride of lion that come out of the Biblishoek. So as you can see there, it's actually still wet enough. I just can't get enough closer look at them, but through the camera. But you know, it seems to be probably last night the whole pride have come in this site here. And what I will do, I will follow them down. I know actually the position where they're heading. It's actually east, where we may end up down in the river. But yeah, we're probably going to stick with these tracks here. And then the other guys as well, they're going to be coming to help check on a few roads, assist each other if we can able to pick up this pride. And yeah, it's probably, I think, Dalamati pride, because the way the track's coming out of the Biblishoek and then slightly where they were seen last time on the western side of a Kayamanzi. And it makes sense. Maybe looks like they move west slightly from there, and they spend a lot of the time until they come out this side. So it's going to be actually very interesting to have a pride again in Joma. So I'm going to try follow up on this one. Hopefully we get luck. You know, they have a lot of chance last night to be able to hunt, and there's a chance that they probably maybe succeed or kill something. So I'm gonna
Good morning and welcome back to Tswalu. We just left our batty at Fox's a short while ago. Unfortunately, the pups have gone down and their parents have gone to rest in the shade. So as we drove a little bit further in search of more animals, we've located these incredibly big fields of yellow flowers. These are known as tribulus species. In Afrikaans, we quite often refer to them as a duiveltjie or dubbeltjie, and the reason why we call them a duiveltjie is because their head looks like a little devil because of the seeds of these plants. And most South African children who love walking barefoot all know how easily these seeds will get stuck in your feet. So these plants often grow in disturbed areas where they know that game species will often pass. And their strategy is that the thorn or little seed will then get stuck into the foot and be crushed to pieces, and that way they will be distributed. So these plants often will cover large areas that has been disturbed, as we have already mentioned. We often refer to these plant species as pioneer species. These pioneers will actually better the conditions for other plants to grow within this area by creating shade, as well as increasing the moisture level, as well as adding nutrients back into the soil. Eventually, we'll have a community of plants that will enter the area, which is referred to as a subclimax community, whose function is very similar to that of the pioneer plant species. Eventually, this will be replaced by a climax plant community. Sometimes these plant succession stages, depending on the vegetation types, can take anywhere between 30 and 90 years. So the name tribulus, which is applied to this species, refers to an ancient Roman weapon that was used in the prevention or to prevent troops on horses as well as elephants to advance into areas. So up to 2,000 years ago, species like elephants were often used in battle. The weapon that they used literally had 4 spikes that resembles that of a seed of the dubbeltjie. One of the famous uses of elephants was actually to try and conquer Rome, which was unsuccessful, and that happened roughly some 200 years before Christ. When Hannibal tried to bring a group of some 40 elephants over the over the Alps to invade Rome. These plants are also often fed on by a number of different game species. However, if conditions become worse and it becomes dry, these plants often appear to be wilted in appearance. It's often not a great thing for animals to eat under those conditions, as the chemicals inside the plant can then make them very ill. We find a very similar occurrence happening with many of the acacia species when their leaves become wilted, and when animals are forced to feed on them, we find that they will often have a upset in their digestive system, where the chemicals that's in the plant, when wilted, will, in combination with the rumen bacteria in the stomach, create a poison which can kill these animals within 24 to 36 hours. Yes, Siggy, they're definitely beautiful, and it really just adds to the beauty of the Kalahari, especially after the rain, when we start seeing a number of different plant species starting to flower en masse. I've personally never have seen so many of these tribulus as flowers in the Kalahari. We're going to continue our drive in search of some more of the special animals of the Kalahari. But in the meanwhile, we take you back to MARNA, who is still with the white lion in Ngala.
So we're still with the sleepy lions in the riverbed. This young male's still got his head up at least. Also oh no. I was going to say the young white male next to him as well, but he's back down. Just had another vehicle arriving. And normally, they just sleep straight through that. They don't even lift their heads when the vehicles go past. But a few of them did just open one eye. You again. PK, can we go over to this? Can you stay here on the left? Just one of the youngest is there. Yeah. Just want to have a look at the spots. So you can see it quite nicely there. If you have a look at the back legs, and then also on the side of the belly there, you'll notice those spots. Now, if you've seen lion cubs before, which I'm sure most of you have, either on screen or maybe in real life, you'll know that they really spot you when they're young. So it helps them blend in when they're really small, and the moms hide them in a den site somewhere. And as they age, those spots will disappear. You can see the spots all along the back legs. And normally they'll hide them in a very thick bush. So where we are at the moment is actually where that one female is denning at this stage, the one we found. We've been seeing her here for the last week and a half. And these females do tend to den on the bank of the river since I've been here every year. A few more have their heads up now. If you look at that female that's got her head up right in the middle of the screen there, you'll notice she's still quite young, and the way we can tell by looking at that nose. So notice how pink that nose is. So the younger animals, the younger cats, leopards are the same. They normally have a pink nose when they're young, and then as they age, they turn black. So you can see her nose there. Still got that pink tinge in the middle. Oof, look at those long teeth. So those canines, sometimes up to, around 5 to 7 centimeters. Like if you look at the adults, they're like the more mature animals. And very important for when they're hunting and bringing down their prey. Biting into the spinal column or the neck, for the grip, trying to get the animal down. Back. Very, very important. We've actually been seeing the 2 lead lionesses in this pride. Their canines are starting to wear down. I was checking the other day. The ones, I think it's on her right side. The whole canine is gone, and the other side it's completely blunt. So once that starts happening, they deteriorate quite quickly. So we'll see what happens. His head's up, but I love how his eyes are closed. This male. It's growing really nicely. Henry's asking, why do lions have black gums? Henry, I have absolutely no idea. I really have no idea. If anyone knows, please, please send thoughts. Yeah, I have no idea why they have the black gums. If you have a close look there, and Pika was just zoomed in, you can see it's just the lining of the mouth that's really black. But when you have a closer look just below the teeth, then you can see it's actually pink. So it's tough to say why those gums of the mouth is black. I'm not sure. Female in the background looks like she's starting to groom herself there. She's yawning as well, so it might mean that she might get up. Darcy Ann is saying he's such a gorgeous lion. That he is. And that mane's still going to get much larger than it is now. So he'll have a full-grown full-grown mane at about 7 years of age. And he's about 4.5 now. So the mane's still going to grow quite a bit. Giving us his side profile there. Have a look at that female in the back there. When she turns her head and looks towards us, I'm going to point out the white markings under the eyes there. I don't know if you can see that. It's almost like white lines under the eyes. So some people say that, that helps see a bit better at night. So you can imagine the white color reflecting light into their eyes when they're up and walking around hunting at night. And seeing as they're mostly nocturnal, that must help. There we go, greeting the Ross male. Where are you going? This young male seems quite nervous every time the Ross male lifts his head. And he kind of looks over his shoulder. She's facing in the direction of where that carcass was, but I'm sure there's nothing left there, so I have no idea where she's going. Maybe she's off to drink some water. And the closest water source is up on the bank, so let's see if she heads up there. Michael's asking why the Birmingham Pride has been so consistently successful. Michael, I think it's a combination of things. It's this area is really nice. They've got quite a large territory here, and the game in this area is also quite prolific. So, with there being lots of food, the lions will thrive. So because of that, they've been able to breed very successfully. They've been able to raise a lot of cubs. So we've got a nice big pride. And with all these lions here, they're able to take on quite large prey as well, like buffalo or zebras and wildebeest. this is a really good area for them. I think that's why they've been so successful. I really think these Ross males have lucked out. I've said this a few times before, where they're definitely not the largest males I've seen, but these females are, they're very strong, big, muscular females, and the Birmingham Pride, they're known to have these large females, and so it's a very strong pride. And the Ross males are currently in control, as well as the Birmingham Breakaway Pride. Now, if we look at that young white female, you'll see she's got a bit of a wound on her nose. Probably happened last night. You see that on the side of the nose. Like I mentioned earlier, when they're around a carcass, they're usually quite mean to each other. You'll see them growling and sometimes biting or like pawing each other. And then you'll find that they have these new nicks and cuts on the faces or the necks or the ears. And then afterwards, you see them all sleeping together again, and usually on top of each other. This one's contact calling. I wonder if... I think there might be another lion up there. Oh, the one female actually just did walk up. Maybe he's calling her. The nice thing about the rainy season, there's water everywhere, so small puddles all over the bush. Whereas if it was winter, they'd have to go quite a distance to get water. And there's a lot of life around the larger waterholes. Bunch of them with gashes on their faces after last night's meal. I'm actually quite surprised that we didn't hear them last night. Like I mentioned earlier, we're pretty much right next to camp. I can see from here. And we're very lucky that they're in the riverbed. We've got such a nice view of them. They could have very easily just been in the thicket on the bank. Jerome's asking if we ever get scared being so close to the lions. Jerome, not really. I think, you'll notice that they're not even looking at us. So, because they've been in this area for quite some time, and they've kind of grown up with vehicles around them, they're not too fazed with us sitting in the vehicles and just observing. They know we're no threat to them, so if we don't get in their way, get too close to them, they don't seem to be bothered. It's a different story if you jump out of the vehicle and you're walking, then they then they kind of see you as a threat. But in the vehicles, they're perfectly fine, and they just do their thing. It's always so amazing to see how they, we sit around them and we talk, we make a lot of noise, and you'll just see them just sleeping throughout this whole thing. But then they'll hear like a kudu alarm calling in the distance or a impala or something, and far away, and you'll see all of their heads lifting. Just because that's something that's, relevant to them. And they manage to somehow just filter through all the noise we make, and they'll hear those animals alarming. All right, we're gonna send you over to Tswalu and see what they have for you.
Good morning and welcome back again to Tswalu. The temperature is already well over 25 degrees Celsius. Our day is warming up and the animals are retiring already. So we're still driving around in the hope of finding a few of the Kalahari animals. And as we drove, we found this skull next to the side of a road. So it definitely belongs to a carnivore if we have a look at it. And then we see this little crest over here. Something has been gnawing on it. So maybe it's something like a jackal that might have been eating on it. If we look on the sides over here, this flat section, this bulging section over here is something that allows for very large muscles to be adapted to it. If we also look at underneath, we can see there's teeth and scissor teeth, or cutting teeth and molars here at the back. And this belongs to a hyena. So it's quite safe to say that this one belongs to a brown hyena, as spotted hyena has only been recently introduced into Tswalu. So brown hyena, just like spotted hyena, both have incredibly strong muscles, allowing for them to be regarded as having some of the strongest jaws of any other animal species. There's a few other contenders, which is hippo, also they believe great white shark, and also crocodiles that are almost very equal in terms of the amount of pressure that they can deliver in a bite. So quite often with brown hyena and spotted hyena, they crush bones to pieces to get the nourishment out of it. And it's said that a spotted hyena, for example, can crush a femur of a full-grown man with ease. What we also have a look at the back over here. I don't know if you can maybe zoom in for us. There's a little spot over here, which I've been told in the past that if you look at this adaptation over to where another two molars will fit in at the back, that is what separates spotted from brown hyena. So this is definitely a brown hyena skull that we have over here. So brown hyenas, in general, they cover very big areas. Some of them covers 450 square kilometer ranges. They quite often will go out and forage, and then they will return back to dens several days later. We also find with them that they will feed on ostrich eggs. They'll feed on carrion, as mentioned earlier. And then also quite often they will go for certain melon species, like the tsama melon, to obtain moisture from that in a dry environment like this. A few days ago also we mentioned that they do love ostrich eggs, and omelette is one of their favorite meals if they can steal an egg from an ostrich. So in general, we don't pick up bones. That's why I'm pushing it around with a stick. The second thing that I'd never pick up when I'm in the bush is also feces of predators. So we never know what was the cause of what killed the animal. And secondly, with the predator feces, they actually contain a host of viruses and bacteria that our bodies don't have any defense against. I'm just going to push it over again. Just turn it around. You'll be able to see again the eye socket over here, and once again that large area where those muscles will adapt, allowing for the very strong jaws to break open bones. Another feature that you also see with hyenas, very large forequarters and very sloped back, which is an adaptation for running, but they also need strong forequarters to pick up pieces of carrion and run away with that and move into areas of safety to avoid any conflict with other predators. I've once watched the drag marks of a brown hyena that dragged a half impala carcass probably for 5 or 6 kilometers back to an area. Then the other interesting one that I found a few years ago was on the Nwanetsi River in the Kruger National Park, where we located a lion that was killed by another group of lions. Half of that lion carcass was dragged over 8 kilometers in distance over the rocky Lebow Mountains back to an area where they fed on it. Good morning, Lee. To answer your question, how old it is, it's definitely an adult animal, but in terms of how old it is and how long it's been lying over here, that's very, very difficult to determine. Quite often we find that skulls and bones can remain in areas for a very long time. We also find that brown hyena has got an exceptional ability of smelling. So in areas like this, where food can be incredibly scarce, it is believed that they can smell carrion up to 14 kilometers on the downwind side. Smell in general is also a very important sense to locate food, but also to determine a number of other things, such as if other animals is in the area, if other animals are reproductive, and a host of more functions.
This is Rusty. He's my favorite vehicle and we've been through all the good times here in the bush. Now, if you feel a connection to Djuma Game Reserve like I do, then we have a fantastic opportunity for you. You can have your name engraved on a brushed metal plaque just like this one, and we will attach it to Rusty so you can always be with us on safari in spirit. We will even send you a digital photograph once your plaque is mounted on Rusty. Spaces are limited, so grab your spot now.
Goodness, look at its wobbly legs. Oh, I don't believe it. I can't believe we've actually seen it. Oh my goodness. Oh, careful, careful, careful. Oh no. Oh, it's okay, little one. Okay.
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily.
Hello everyone, I am Yapi and I am a safari guide at Anbion Ngala. My favorite animal is the lion, because 99% of the time it doesn't do anything. And the 1% of the time it does, it's just awesome.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth. Have you been watching Wild Earth and dreamt of being right there on safari with one of the guides? Well, now you can. Wild Earth is offering you a chance to buy a ticket to dream. You or a friend can hop on board a live Wild Earth show and join our guide on safari. The ticket is redeemable at any of our locations, anytime in the future. Only a limited number of tickets are available, so don't wait. Get your ticket now and start dreaming. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back. We're actually looking through these open plains here, seeing if there's any sign of cheetah or maybe even white rhino around here. And I've just come across, let me just position a little bit better, this little interesting tree on my left. How's that, Owen? Okay. I'm sure some of our viewers have seen this tree before. But as you can see, there's a whole lot, it's got these lovely feathery leaves, and then in the middle there, there's tiny little thorns, in little small pairs. But then you can also see that it's got these larger thorns here. Oh, ow. Just broke one off there. I'd like to show you here. So if you have a look here, these are very large, sort of swollen thorns. And if you have a look even closer, you can see these tiny little holes in these thorns. And that's actually caused by an ant called the slender ant. Now this ant comes along, it's a mutualistic relationship with this tree, and it actually releases a pheromone and causes these thorns to swell up. And what they do is they use these thorns as nesting. Oh, there's actually an ant right inside. You can see there. It might be an ant or another insect using it as a nest. Don't know if you can see from that angle. It's a little bit too far. But they actually use this as a nest. And the reason it benefits the tree is as something will come and feed along this tree, those ants actually come out, swarm onto the animal, and it causes them to stop feeding. So it benefits the tree, and then the ant, of course, gets a bit of shelter. So that is a little story behind this tree. I'm also seeing some galls in between here. You can see one down here. There's a couple all around. Now these are done by our gall wasp, which will do a similar thing, except it doesn't benefit the tree. It's actually a bit of a parasitic sort of relationship and growth where its eggs are laid into the tree. It's quite a nice little sign of some of our smaller animals, the signs of them out in the wild. We're going to carry on looking through this beautiful open area. As I said, I'm quite confused as to why our cheetah don't like this section of the reserve. There's not a lot of predators around. We've seen a few impala, some of their more preferred prey species. So we're going to just carry on driving through this area and see what we come across. In the meantime, we're going to send you over to Swalu and see what they've managed to find for you over that side.
Welcome back to Swalu. We're still driving around, seeing what we can find. We're currently just in one of the dune streets where we get a very dwarfed vegetation type that is known as shrubveld. There's quite often areas where we can find larger bird species as curry bustard and a number of other game species. So often we do find eland around here, which is one of the other species which we're keeping our eyes open for. Good morning, Tyler. To answer your question, I do actually have a number of favorite plants, and I actually love trees even more than smaller plants. So definitely if I'm in the eastern half of South Africa, the marula is one of my favorites. If I'm in forested environments, it's definitely our national tree, which is a yellowwood. And if I'm in the arid western half of South Africa, it's definitely the camel thorn acacia. But when it comes to small little flowers, the poison bulb that we found a few days ago on one of the show, and also the spider lily, that's known as the aandblommetjie, is one of my other favorite flowers. In the Western Cape, it's definitely the Protea cineroides, which is our king Protea, which is my other favorite flower. And the ericas. Just be careful of here. Quite a few acacia melliferas. Not a very nice plant to get stuck in, so it's quite polite of us as guides to always warn our guests that there's overhanging branches. If you look closer over here, with this acacia, it's got thorns that are downward curved, and they're incredibly sharp. Just let me get my fingers off there before I get stuck. And this is what I'm always amazed with, is that giraffe will come and strip the leaves off of these little branches without having their tongues injured. And as mentioned yesterday, they've got a very special coating of saliva that just deflects these thorns off their tongue. In recent years, they've actually studied that saliva, and they're actually trying to see if they can produce it, as it's a water-based lubricant, which is way more environmentally friendly than oils. Quite often on these acacia mellifera's, we get another plant that grows here. I'm just going to break it. Good morning, Laura. With regards to your question on medicinal plants, there's a lot of the trees that actually have medicinal purposes, and I will be pointing out quite a few more of these over the next few days. So yesterday we had a Christmas, and Christmas is often associated with mistletoe, and this is one of the mistletoe plants that grows on the acacias in this area. So what I find particularly interesting is the Afrikaans name, which is birdlime, of full end in Afrikaans, if you translate it to English, birdlime. And this plant is often used by indigenous people right through Southern Africa to catch birds. And simply what they do is they chew on a larger piece of a stem, and what they will do then is that they will make a sticky paste from there, which they rub onto a branch, and then they tie a small little grasshopper next to that spot, and birds will be attracted to the grasshopper and then get stuck onto that sticky paste. One of the other things I find particularly interesting is that the fruits of these mistletoes are often consumed by bird species such as barbets, and within this area it's the acacia pied barbet. And these barbets will feed on the fruit, and once that sticky fruit has been stuck to its bill, once it's eaten the outer layer of the fruit, it has to get rid of it. And it perches onto a branch, scrapes it off, and what the seed does is then germinates on the plant and sets roots into the plant itself and parasitize the plant to a partial degree by taking nutrients and minerals from the plant, this inner bark, which is responsible for the transportation of nutrients and minerals. However, it's not a full parasite. It can photosynthesize. As you can see, it's got green leaves. Therefore, it can produce its own carbohydrates. Zave, that's a difficult question to answer, but I would presume that it's one of the euphorbia species, or most likely the Bushman poison bulb, which I showed a few days ago on one of the shows. So both of those plants have the ability, if it's used in excess, to actually kill the person that uses it. So you do need to have a very good knowledge of how much, in terms of quantity, of a specific plant you need to use when it comes to medicinal purposes. For example, in the eastern half of South Africa, a lot of the euphorbias, as well as species such as Timboti, often gets used for curing toothache, but in minute amounts. It will be very successful for killing a tooth off that is busy rotting and killing it and then it's easy to dislodge. And then you can, but once again, if you incorrectly dose, you've got the potential of going straight to the doctor or making your way back to your maker. So a few years ago, I had a very good long discussion with a doctor friend of mine, and what he said is that yes, some of the plant species which we look at often does have medicinal purposes. In some cases, they have placebos, but quite often the side effects outweighs the value in terms of treatment. And he specifically focused on having patients that had to come in on a regular basis into hospital who was on dialysis machines, and most of these patients were people that would use medicines from plants that they collected from the field or which was given to them by a traditional healer. We're going to continue our drive from here, and meanwhile we're handing you back to MARNA.
So we had to leave those lions to make space for one of the other vehicles, and we decided to continue along the riverbed. And we have found a red-chested cuckoo. So lots of them have been calling in the riverbed here. There are many of the cuckoos that are currently here. Afrikaans, we call this bird the Piet my vrou. I had guests the other day, and they were actually saying, because they were asking, why do these birds call? And I was like, they communicated, the males and the females are communicating. And he was like, well, they should probably say, waar's my vrou, which translates to, where's my wife? And now, obviously, he stopped calling. I don't know if you can see the colors too clearly. It is overcast, so it makes it a bit difficult. But he's got like this rusty, almost red patch on the chest. Ooh, look at that. And now these cuckoos are brood parasites, so they have no parental duties. What they do is they come here in summer, they breed, and then the females will lay their eggs in another bird's nest. So all of them have different hosts, and these red-chested cuckoos, they often go for the robin chats and also the thrushes. Now they'll lay their eggs in their nest, and then that chick will eventually, they'll all hatch. The cuckoo then being a little bit bigger than the host bird's chicks, and the cuckoo will eventually either kick them out of the nest or just make so much noise that the parents will just keep feeding that cuckoo chick even more than their own chicks. And I've seen these pictures of like this massive cuckoo chick and a small little robin chat, it's gone. All right, continue down the riverbed. We're still looking for that leopard. No signs yet. We're going to send you over to Lauren with some hippos at Djuma.
We are still here, I promise. We had a little bit of a technical issue, but we're back in the game. So we've just came by Gowrie Dam. We'll give you a nice view of how full this dam is, and of course its resident hippo. Probably loving the fact that his dam is getting bigger and bigger with each rain. Now, I didn't have any luck with leopards, but Andrew actually found lions. So we're going to go to the Talamatis, all thanks to him. But unfortunately, he's also having a bit of a technical difficulty and he's not able to go there, but we will. I believe they're not doing very much, but we're still going. Oh, we've got the ducks over here. Simon, do you see? I think it's the white face just on the embankment there. They just landed. Do you see the pair of them? Yes, well done. Yes, I love these ducks. The white-faced whistling ducks. Phantom of the Opera. I used to love Phantom of the Opera. Monogamous, but very difficult to tell between the sexes, so I would not be able to tell you which one was the male and which one was the female, but it's very likely that we're at least looking at a pair. Aren't they just stunning? Oh, I do appear to have lost comms at the minute, but we are going to bumble towards the lions.
Welcome back. So as you can see, we have found some beautiful young giraffe. They are standing so gorgeously for us, giving us a little bit of show. I always find them to be really intriguing animals to sit and watch. There's some animals that are always just doing something interesting, and giraffe is certainly one of them. You can see this one has a red-billed oxpecker. The one on the left is a red-billed oxpecker calling. You can hear that trill sound. It's opening its bill there. And that is a very significant sound to listen out for in the bush. As you can see there, this one on the right has a huge wound on its front left leg. Oh, it's actually busy gushing with blood. You can see the blood pouring down. This one right in front of us, it's facing away. It's the second one from the left. If you look on the front left leg, it's busy gushing with blood there. It's wagging its tail. You got it. I'm trying to figure out what is oh. Just trying to figure out what might have caused that. You know, it is a huge gash. It's gone quite far down into the skin there. You can see there's actually like a big strip of flesh that's gone away. You can see even a bit of the blood's gone onto the leg on the right hand side. I'm just trying to see if there's any other marks around it. I did see a giraffe with a similar wound the other day. I'm wondering it must be the same one, but this does look very fresh. I mean, the amount of blood that's pouring out should have scabbed over and started healing by now. And I do think it is actually from a predator, because if we look just to the left, there are some sort of scar-like marks that look a bit like claws. Almost as if something managed to grab on and bite a chunk of its leg off before this giraffe managed to shake it off. Another possibility is as it's running, it gets got a huge chunk out gouged by some sort of oddly angled stick. I think those are the two most likely outcomes. It looks incredibly painful. We had a question yesterday about an oxpecker being, sometimes it can be a parasitic relationship, so this is certainly something that a wound that an oxpecker would try and prevent from healing. As it started scabbing over, it would pick off that scab to feed in the fresh blood below. I always feel sorry for animals in these kind of circumstances, because we know we would be able to, if it was us, we would be able to LT. I mean, it could, but if we have a look, this is a female. So if you look at the top of the ossicones, they're very thin. It's got very pointed, brush-like features. As I'm saying that, I kind of think it is actually a young male. I've just seen, even though it's got those type of hair tip points, you can see in the middle of the belly, there's actually a little tuft of hair there, and a little protrusion. So there's a young male. It's just got very thin ossicones and hasn't lost its hair quite yet. But it's very unlikely to have had a proper fight yet. So normally, in any other circumstance, if it was a fully grown male, it could have certainly been a wound from another giraffe. You know, they do have very hard ossicones. But in this circumstance, because he's so young, he wouldn't be fighting properly like that. He might be play fighting. This giraffe on the left, watch him. He's busy chewing on a bone. Have a look, he's giving a good old chew. Getting right to the back there. And why they're chewing, it's called osteophagy, and it's to try and get phosphates and calcium from that bone. And what's quite interesting is that the bones around here are actually from an old giraffe carcass. So it's an interesting scenario that it's actually probably chewing on the bone of one of the bones from an old giraffe. We might actually see that drop the bone just now if we stay on him. On her, sorry. A beautiful sort of scene with all three giraffes walking in one long line. You can imagine it's difficult to actually get that bone around the back of the mouth there. There's such a long tongue in there, and also must be quite a big bone, so not easy to maneuver for them to be able to chew and try and suck out the nutrients there. There we go. Seems to have got it to the front teeth now. Heard a very funny story about a guest who came onto one of the reserves, and the first time they saw the giraffe and they were quite close to them, they asked their guide, surely these giraffes must be carnivorous. You know, they are such big animals, they can't survive on just grass and leaves. And the guide assured them, no, they are herbivores. They feed on, little bushes and leaves. And it took a while to convince the guests. Eventually they said, okay, all right, they're herbivores. And as they turned the next corner, they saw a giraffe with a huge bone sticking out of its mouth. And looked to the guide as if he had been lying, and then he had to quickly explain the whole osteophagy and how they lack phosphates and calcium. But he said, quite funnily enough, he didn't think they actually believed him by the end of the day. And one on the right might have also picked up a little bit of a bone. It's doing quite an interesting chewing motion again. Yeah, certainly seems to have picked up something. Can actually hear that crunching. Unusual to hear giraffes crunching away. So we are going to carry on looking through these open areas, seeing if we can find any signs of cheetah around here. But in the meantime, we're going to send you over to Swallow.
Welcome back to Swallow. So as we were driving, we found another plant, and as we are already discussing a number of medicinal plants this morning and practical uses of plants, we thought we'll bring one more in. And the plant that we have over here is known as a devil's fawn or a boot protector. I'm just going to point out some of the seeds for you over here. Here's some of the old seeds. I'm not sure if you can actually see that it's got two little horns on the top, hence the name devil's fawn. And just like the tribulus, which we found earlier on, when an animal steps on these, that will be stuck on their foot, crushed underneath their weight, and the seed isn't dispersed in this way. Now, one of the practical uses for this plant is actually to use it as a soap or also as a shampoo. I'm just going to demonstrate to you how it works. I've just broken off a little piece over here. And what you start doing is you crush this in your hands, you add water, and it creates a very slimy texture, which you can now use to wash yourself. It's also quite often used in rural areas by people who farm with cattle. When cattle does go into labor, that they will actually lubricate the birth canal with this to actually let the calf come out more easily. However, you can see we've got a lovely soapy mass or mess at this moment. I'm just going to wash these off, and then we're going to continue on our drive and see what we can find. Just before we're going to continue on our drive, I'm just going to hand you over back to Juma, where they're currently viewing lion.
Count. I can see 5 at the moment. But I can also see the other vehicle looking in a different direction, so I imagine the rest of them are over there. They smell awful. Sorry guys, but you do. And with the Talamatis, there's 5 adult lionesses and 9 sub-adults, ranging from between 1.5 years to 2 years. And 6 of them are female, 3 of them are male. So I'm sure some of you know that, but for those of you who maybe haven't came across the Talamatis before, that's the sort of dynamics. They're actually a really wonderful pride. I miss seeing the Nkuhumas so much, oh, so much. But I do believe we're lucky to also have the Talamatis in the area. It's not that hot yet, but they're clearly down for it today. I imagine our lions will sleep most of the day, which is completely normal. When you're active all night, of course you're going to sleep all of the next again day. I've got blue eye there, sorry. My monitor is bleached out in the sun. This is sort of the Talamati version of purple eye. We call her blue eye. You've got flies in your mouth, dearest. It's a lovely little source of protein for you. All of you are happy to see the Talamatis. Me too. And you can see, if we can just go back to blue eye, Simon, you can see her teeth are quite yellow. It's normally a little bit of a sign of an older lioness. And her canines are blunt. You see that? Slightly blunt at the tips, if you like. They're not as sharp as I imagine they once were. And how small those little teeth in the front are. They're very small. Sorry, that's just another vehicle trying to navigate around us. Can get quite lots of cubs, but generally the lionesses will stay with the pride, and the males will disperse. They'll go off on their own for a little while. And of course, the older ones will eventually get to an age where they will unfortunately pass on. So it's a constantly sort of dynamic, moving thing, a pride. But generally speaking, once they get too big, then it becomes completely unsustainable. And it's too many mouths to feed, too many bodies to defend, just generally too big. So they will separate. And they can actually split and have breakaway prides, which is exactly what happened with the Nkuhumas and the Talamatis, believe it or not, a long time ago. And some lionesses will go join the breakaway pride. So for a while, it's said that the lionesses, the two sort of kinship groups, can stay in contact. But over the years, with all the newcomers and all the influx of cubs, that will of course change. So generally speaking, I'm sure the average figure is somewhere between 15 to 20 within a lion pride, and that could be including the coalition of males. There will always be one dominant coalition of males that will sort of be residing over a female pride. There has been prides up to 30 recorded, but on average, you'll find 15 to 20. It's also quite area dependent. In different environments across the world, different habitats, you'll find different dynamics with lion prides. Okay, I'm going to try and see if I can reposition to see the rest of the pride. And we're going to send you guys across to some elephants.
So we have what looks like Cher's wig attached to the bottom of an elephant's tail. Now it's a luscious amount of hair for a very big elephant bull who's got awesome looking tusks, very symmetrical, long, slightly curved tusks. And this elephant has just finished drinking at Ndlovu Dam and is actually making its way up the slope and is ever so slightly coming into must. There you can see those beautiful tusks, nice and thick at the base, tapering to a nice pointed end. Very tall elephant with a lot of temporal gland secretions, so a lot of liquid coming out the side of its head. And just a moment ago, we were a lot closer to this elephant. It walked over to us. And then we smelt this very pungent, acidic smell, which you very much associate with must. Now, obviously, turning its bum to us, feeding amongst this fallen tree on all the soft grasses that are there. But yes, we gave it a bit of space. We moved away a little bit, just because when they are in must, elephants can be somewhat unpredictable. Remember, they can have more than 70 times more testosterone in their body than normal, sometimes over 100 times more testosterone. So it means they're very quick to act aggressively if they feel in any way threatened. So we gave it a bit of space to make sure that it doesn't feel cornered or trapped by us in any way. And although it gave us a bit of a head shake, it seems to have calmed down now, and it's just doing its thing, feeding with its friend. A much younger bull traveling together. Now, as it turns its head, you'll be able to see the temporal glands very swollen on the side of its head, and the liquid coming from those glands. So that is called the temporal gland, and that is a sign that this elephant is in must, or at least coming into must, because it doesn't have a lot of wetness. Oh, it's scratching its bum on the tree. It doesn't have a lot of wetness between its legs, which is another sign that an elephant's in full must. So I think it's just the early stages. Thank goodness for us, because at one stage this elephant was probably about 10 meters away from us as it walked from the water towards its feeding ground. And if it was in full must, it might have been a lot more likely to give us problems. Look how it's leaning back like that. I wonder if it's actually leaning on a bit of a stump there. Yeah, it is. It's having a bit of a scratch on its bum, on that very sharp-looking spike. Harold, I don't believe elephants do sweat. And if they do, I've never noticed it before. They pant and they flap their ears to try and cool down. But I've never seen them sweat before. I don't believe that they can sweat. Not like we can anyway. when they're really hot, they'll go into water to cool down and they'll flap their ears a lot. Now you see they're flapping their ears quite a lot now, although it's not a very hot day. It is quite humid and it is quite warm, and there's almost no breeze at all. As you can see, the grass, the plants, the trees, everything is dead still. So there's not even a breeze stirring. So they need to create their own breeze by slowly flapping their ears open and closed, which helps air to pass over those veins and arteries and capillaries inside the ear and help them to cool down. Now you can really see the size difference between the tusks. It's amazing. This elephant, I'd say is probably in its early 30s, or maybe even, early 30s, and it's already got massive tusks. Now I don't think that it could yet be called a tusker, not quite, but if it continues growing over the next 30 years, which it may well do, we might see those tusks getting twice as long as they are right now, which would definitely make it a very impressive elephant bull. Now, it's unfortunate that they both seem to be walking towards us. It's not particularly what I'd like them to do. We are at the moment nearly 30 meters away from them, so at the moment it's good, but if they keep walking towards us, we will have to move out of their way. In the bush, everything is about giving way to the bigger and stronger animals. And elephants are definitely the biggest and strongest animal, so would never try and block their path intentionally, especially not one with such impressive weapons.
Welcome back to Tswalu. We just had a quick little stop and we're going to hop out of a vehicle for a short while, quickly go and look at some tracks. But in the meanwhile, we have our camera panned on one of the dunes running from north to south. And we just like to encourage you to sit, listen, and to all the sounds, some of the cicadas in the background, and a number of bird species such as white-browed sparrow weaver and calling as well.
We've managed to reposition a little bit to get a better look at our sleepy lions. Now, we touched on yesterday how lions are part of the genus Panthera. And Panthera is basically your big cats. And let me see if I can get this right. I used to have them memorized. Lion is Panthera leo, and you find them in Africa and Asia. Leopard is Panthera pardus. Again, Africa and Asia. Jaguar is Panthera onca. You find them in Latin America, South America. Tiger is Panthera tigris, found in Asia. And snow leopard, Panthera unica. I think that's the one I always forget. But basically, they're very closely related. And I got asked a really interesting question yesterday about them interbreeding. So I thought we could just go into that. So when you're classifying an animal, you always start off with the kingdom. The kingdom's Animalia. All animals in the animal kingdom belong to Animalia. And then you break it down into phylums. And the phylums that we're looking at right now would be Chordata. And that's because they have a backbone. Then from phylum, it breaks into class, order, family, then genus. And genus is what Panthera is. And what that tells you, that all the Panthera cats are closely related. So can they interbreed? Biologically, yes. They can. I got asked yesterday about a leopard and a jaguar interbreeding. And it's highly unlikely, well, it's actually impossible, in the wild they will ever meet. But at an anatomical level, the male and female genitalia would work. They would be able to breed. And could they successfully produce offspring? Because they're so closely related in Panthera, most likely yes. But at a chromosome level, will this offspring be successful? And most likely not. Most likely interbred species or crossbred species, the males at least will be infertile because it's not supposed to happen. That's sort of evolution putting an end or a stop to it right there. So biologically it's possible, but then most likely the offspring, or at least the males, will be infertile so that they cannot go on to produce. And even if they're not infertile, it won't take many generations before that has to end, that has to stop. It's not right. And these scenarios, when they do happen, it's normally humans at play. It's normally in captivity, humans trying to manipulate situations. A lion will mate with a lion through scent, recognize individuals through scent, through pheromones, through chemicals. When they're in estrus, they'll recognize their own species. They'll recognize their own prides and coalitions. It's highly, highly unlikely you will find two different species wanting to mate. They won't have the same scent. Now, a leguar or a lepjag, I hate both of those names, are actually the hybrid, the terms used for the hybrid of a male leopard and a female jaguar. And you can use leguar or lepjag interchangeably if you ever so wish. And they have been bred, and it has been successful in captivity. Of course, when you use a male leopard and a female jaguar. And the other way around, I believe, is not so common. It doesn't always lead to success. So I just did some research for you, and that's what I came up with. I believe humans have, well, they've done some terrible things when forcing species to crossbreed. But it says that the lepjags that I just mentioned, I hate that name, I just don't know what else to call them. The females are fertile. And one incident, they actually mated that female lepjag, who's a crossbred individual already, remember, to a lion, to a male lion. And it was successful in terms of they were able to reproduce, and they called this a lijaculeb. Goodness. I think I will stop right there because it's awful. But yes, it's possible. The closer animals are related, then biologically, anatomically, physiologically, it's all possible. So there you go. It's getting really hot now. That sun is starting to burst through. And of course, cheetahs, they're not in the Panthera genus. They're in a whole genus all on their own. They have a genus just for them, Acinoids. And that's because they're not so closely related to the Panthera genus, and they have completely sort of different anatomy and physiological features. The opposite of Panthera, the opposite of your big cats, is your small cats. The serval, the wildcat, the caracal, the sand cat, the jungle cat, the black-footed cat, the golden cat. These are all examples of your small cats. So it's all part of the Felidae family, but it's just broken down a little bit further after that. And you've only got 5 at the top. That's your Panthera 5. And there are 38 species in the Felidae family in total. sure the rest of the pride are just up ahead, but we're going to have to maneuver around them. It's never easy when you've got a smorgasbord of lions across the drive that you want to go. Okay, I'm going to try and navigate around and count how many lions we have here. But for now, let's go back down to Swallow.
Welcome back to Tswalu. We've just been off a vehicle and we just found the track of an ostrich which we would like to share with you. Very odd looking track. If you look over here, the main section of a foot, then a small outer toe that just creates balance. And then right over here, there's an incredibly large nail on the tip of the ostrich's toe. That nail is specifically used as defensive weapons against other males when they are fighting for access to females, and also to protect themselves against predators. A few years ago, I was very fortunate when I was at Cape Point National Park in Cape Town, where a number of baboons were trying to steal some of the chicks from the nest, which was close by to the nest. The parents very rapidly started running towards these baboons, and roughly at a speed of some 60-70 kilometers an hour, they caught up with these baboons and gave them a fairly bad kicking. So yes, would not mess with the ostrich. It's one of the few animals in the African veld that I'm actually personally quite cautious of. I do feel very comfortable with leopard as well as lion on foot. However, the ostrich is the one that I do fear. To give you a rough idea, ostrich is the species that we have over here. It's a common ostrich. It can weigh roughly up to 70-80 kilograms. However, they can potentially get larger. We've already mentioned in a previous edition that their eggs is one of the largest eggs of any bird species at the moment. And if we have to compare that to the world's smallest bird species, which is a bee hummingbird from Cuba, which has an egg which is only 0.2 kilograms, while the egg of the ostrich has a contents or weight of approximately 1 to 1.4 kilograms approximately. The ostrich, as mentioned already, between 80 plus kilograms compared to the bee hummingbird, where the bird itself only weighs 2 grams. Within the arid areas of Kalahari, we also have one of South Africa's smallest bird species, and this is known as a penduline tit. They virtually weigh anywhere between 4 and 5 grams in weight. From here, we're going to continue, see if we can actually locate on this ostrich and get a picture of him. Just before we head off, we're handing you over to Pinda, where they're currently stationed at a waterhole.
So it seems we have had quite a bit of a crocodile morning here at Anby and Pinda. You can see we found some very baby crocodiles here. You see that there's 2 that are just on the edge of the watering hole. The one just had its mouth open just before we came to look at them. So what they're doing is they're busy sunning themselves out in the open. They are cold-blooded, so they need to get their heat from external sources. Their bodies can't produce heat themselves. And they'll regulate their temperature by opening their mouths and letting a cool breeze blow over out, and one's about to climb in the water. Look at that. It's probably significantly hot now. Caught enough heat, and there goes the other one as well. Unbelievable. You can see that there's 2 in the water now, and the third one going right in there. think there's quite a few of these young crocodile around here. I don't know if you noticed the size difference between those two. The one was quite significantly bigger. And while it will be dependent on what they eat at the moment, so one might have fed a bit more, I also do think there were 2 nests of eggs. There are 2 different crocodiles. I think they both had a whole nest of eggs and these crocodiles were hatched at like a little bit apart. So I think that's also going to account for the size difference. Quite intriguing little guys. Beautiful colors underneath there. Wiley, thank you for your question, and it's a very interesting question because no, they actually don't. They will continue to grow until they're 70 years old, but their growth does certainly slow down as they get older. So, while they grow quite a bit when they're younger, and they'll get much bigger, much quicker as they grow older, it slows down a little bit. That's why you can get some really massive crocodiles. But also it will depend on how much they feed as well. Amazing to see how few we can actually find here at the moment. So when we first found this little section of crocodiles, or these little group of crocodiles, I think we counted over 30. And now you can see there's only a few. I think they are a bit more scattered around this watering hole. But I think also a few birds have figured out that there's a surplus of crocodiles here. We actually saw a fish eagle with one in its talons a few weeks ago. So they've been picking them off one by one. Got a very high mortality, these young crocodiles. The mother will be staying close by them for the first 2 years, though, to try and protect them as much as she can. But even with that, you can see they're still very, very highly preyed upon. Now, if we pan off to our left, we can see we've got a whole lot of birds on the opposite bank there. You can see starting from the far right, actually there's another young crocodile there. There's another one right in front of those group of birds. There's like a little brown birds with that blacksmith lapwing in the middle. And just in front of that blacksmith lapwing, you can see there's that baby crocodile. So you've got the blacksmith lapwing, which is the one with a very black front, a little bit of a white head. So Lauren, you can't really, not from sight. You'd have to have a very dosed out crocodile that's been anesthetized for you to be able to sex it. Crocodiles, when they lay their eggs, there's a difference in temperature, and that will determine whether they're males or females. So the eggs that are a bit colder are males, and then the eggs that are a little bit hotter are females. And so basically the depth that those eggs are laid at will change the sex of the crocodiles themselves. But from this angle, there's nothing that we can use to figure out if it was a male or a female. Really good question. I actually see 2 crocodiles on that bank there. But you can see how the birds are not worried about them at all. And it's not only because they're young crocodiles, but also because crocodiles have a relationship with birds when they're outside of water. I'm sure you've seen birds picking off at little bits of meat and stuff in their teeth. And birds will quite happily do that for the crocodiles because they know they won't get eaten outside of the water. And crocodiles, in turn, get their teeth cleaned. So it's like a mutual understanding. So all those brown birds with the beautiful grey stripe along the side of the wings, and then the black barring up and above and below, those are water thickneys. And then we've got 2 white-faced whistling ducks on the left, just in front of that one crocodile on the left. Very white face, very rufous breast. I think what we might do is sit here for a little bit longer and see if anything comes down to drink. In the meantime, we're going to send you over to Juma, who found some lions.
Simon's done a beautiful job of staring in to the eyes of this lioness. Most likely doesn't have any vision in her right eye. Simon, that's stunning. I think she's watching all the butterflies. Don't go chasing butterflies. Hopefully the butterflies do not decide to land on the nose. I don't think that will be a good ending. Isn't it beautiful? Lions are definitely slightly more camouflage in winter, I would say, because their tawny coats tend to blend in with the monotonous barren sort of landscape in the real heart of winter. But they still blend in fantastically well in summer, they really do. Although the vegetation is very green, their tawny coats still blend in. Imagine having such heightened senses that everything catches your attention. Finny, you're asking, are the males still strong enough to defend their territory? I would imagine you're referring to the avocas. Are the avocas still strong enough? Obviously the sub-adults here are not territorial. Yes, of course, they're still the dominant coalition around here. Darkmane's got a bit of a limp, and he's very much still able to feed well, roam around Buffelshoek. And Blondie and Mohawk I haven't actually seen in quite some time. Oh goodness, they've all gone pancake flat. But yes, they're still very much territorial. They were born in 2013 from an area called Avoca, which is not too far away from here. We drive past it on the way to Hoedspruit, and that makes them 7 years old, coming up for 8. So they're still in their prime. You would not believe it. These two sausages have just came and lay right in front of our car. Just going to make it very, very difficult for us to leave. And the lioness on the right, Simon, you see that big scratch going down her side? I think it's a scratch. Yes. Actually looks like it's healed, doesn't it? It looks more like a scar than a wound. Oh no, they're all coming in front of the car now. Although this lioness here, you can see the sun's starting to speckle on her. She'll move soon. Maybe there's so many one-eyed lionesses and one-eyed leopards out here, and they're absolutely fine. They have such heightened other senses, such as their hearing and their sense of smell, that they can execute a hunt. For a lion, it's probably easier. You've got the pride. But we have purple eye, blue eye, hukumuri, nsele, so many examples. It's really, really common to see your big cats with eye injuries from claws during mating, or even play, maybe an accident from play during a hunt, hunting the wrong species. So it's very common, and just like us, if we lose one eye, we can still see. Yes, it's no longer binocular vision, but we can still see. And the eye that you still have sort of remaining intact will become much stronger, become the dominant eye, and will compensate. Most likely, your other senses will become very, very heightened. Oh, goodness. Got everybody coming into the car. So yes, they can still see. Their field of vision will be slightly different, but that eye that still functions will become much, much stronger. And they will rely on their hearing and their noses, as they mostly do. They live in a completely different sensory world from us. They call it the Umwelt. Such a fascinating concept. If you fancy a read on Boxing Day, search it. UMWELT. It's from a German scientist, Jakob von Uexküll, and it's just a great concept, a great way of starting to learn about the sensory world of an animal. And when I say animals, I mean all organisms, from your mosquito to your blind ticks to your huge elephants, snakes. They all have a completely different perception of their own world. They can all be in this area right now. We've got lions. Let's just say, for an example, an elephant was to appear. Simon and I are here. We're mammals. There's a snake in the grass, and there's a butterfly that comes to lie on Blue Eye's nose. That's a huge range of species right there, and every single one of us, from your great grey pachyderm to your butterfly, will perceive this small space. We're all in the same space. This is hypothetical. But we're perceiving this environment in completely different ways, and every single one of us are most likely using different senses. And this is only a small patch of land, let's just say 5 meters by 5 meters. Other than Simon and I, we will obviously be very similar in the way that we perceive our environment, but not exactly the same, but similar. All of us in this area, each organism will perceive the area in an entirely different way. And to understand an animal, I firmly believe you've got to tap into their Umwelt as much as you can and try and understand, how do they survive? How do they see their environment? How do they navigate across their landscape? And if you have a phobia and you'd like to get over that phobia, you'd like to challenge your own brain and challenge your own thought process, I recommend, if it's an animal, you do exactly that. If you're scared of scorpions or snakes or spiders or geckos like Trishala, just tap into them, start to research them. Okay, maybe don't look at photos if you're really terrified, and start to understand them. And slowly but surely, once you learn about their biology and their anatomy and their ecology, then maybe start to look at images or videos and understand, actually, this animal's really cool. Why am I scared of it? And that's what I did with spiders. I still don't want them in my bedroom, and I still don't want them crawling across me when I sleep. But I am utterly fascinated by them now. So that's a little tip for you if you fancy getting over your phobia. So we're going to sit here. We can't really go anywhere anyway, and enjoy watching our sleepy lions.
Join our Explorers program so we can keep on sharing nature with the world. For a monthly subscription, you will have the opportunity to win fantastic Wild Earth expeditions, have access to an animal identification app, receive weekly highlights from our shows, and much more. All the money will go to keeping these live safaris on air, which in turn connects a global population with nature.
My name is Taylor McCurdy, and I work for Eco Training. I love hearing from all of the viewers. However, I particularly enjoy those of you who have been watching for a few years. Your questions are just so advanced, and they really get me thinking. If you'd like to ask a question on Wild Earth, you need to register on our website. Once you've done that, head to the Live Safari page and submit your questions below the live feed.
Wild Earth is launching our brand new Explorer program with an opportunity to win a very special Wild Earth expedition. The lucky winner will get a behind-the-scenes Wild Earth experience at the magnificent and beyond Ngala Tainted Safari Camp. The prize includes a 3-night stay for you and a friend with a chance to sleep out in the unique Ngala treehouse. Become a Wild Earth Explorer and stand a chance to win this and many other prizes. Terms and conditions apply.
Oh, it's going to be in trouble now. Oh, this is unbelievable stuff. Here comes a hippo in too. Go, Impala. There's a hippo coming in. I can't believe what we're seeing here. This is what we normally see in East Africa. It's all over. Hippo leaping at the crocodile now. Everything's gone underwater.
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily.
Well, it was really interesting. We were sitting here and 1 million, and I tell you, I counted them, there was at least 1 million foam nest frogs were calling in chorus with each other. And like as if someone clicked their fingers, they all stopped the moment we came live here. And that is an interesting thing, because normally frogs do something called time sharing, which is where they'll call, individuals separately will call, and so they don't confuse the females that are looking for the strongest male. But they all just called together at the same time, and then all stopped together at the same time, which is quite interesting. We're sitting quietly here at Indlovu just to enjoy the peace, and maybe they'll start calling again in a moment. Let's just listen. It's all quiet now. It's like the whole world has gone silent. Normally we can hear a lot of sounds, but now it's just a few birds and crickets. It's actually wonderful. And these foam nest frog nests are going to start producing prodigious amounts of tadpoles soon. They're all going to start wriggling out and dropping into the water. Jerome, that's a good question, and to be honest, I'm not 100% sure, but it's probably a protein-based structure that is secreted alongside the same time when the males are secreting sperm and the females are laying their eggs. And what they do is they kick their legs together back and forth, and it churns up this foamy substance into this nest that hardens a lot like a meringue. If you were to go over there and feel it with your finger, it's quite firm on the outside, but it's moist in the middle. And what happens is, as the tadpoles hatch, they eat their way out and wriggle through and then drop into the water. So I think it's a proteinous substance of some sort, created specifically to encase the eggs, to keep them moist if it gets dry, and also to keep them safe from predators. I'm so confused why predators haven't yet figured out that this is food, because I mean, any animal could come along and just chomp that whole thing and have, you know, hundreds of tiny little protein-filled egg sacs, as well as a mouthful of meringue. It must be delicious, but they seem to not notice that yet. They don't understand that that's... Everything in nature is like an evolutionary arms race. One animal develops a technique to defend itself, and another develops a technique to overcome that defense. And constantly nature is adapting. So this might be something that's still waiting for the enterprising predator who comes along and figures that out. And the frogs will have to come up with a new method. Once the tadpoles hatch out, though, and fall into the water, they are now no longer protected, and they have to rely on themselves. So they've got counter shading, generally speaking, lighter underbellies and darker tops of their bodies, so that anything looking down from above just sees them as like a dark object. They wouldn't necessarily know that it's a tadpole. And they'll go and hide amongst these roots there below where that nest is. There's a whole bunch of roots that are sticking out into the water, and they'll hide amongst those and have to swim. And in fact, when they're tadpoles, when these young frogs are tadpoles, they're not very vulnerable. Of course, they are vulnerable, but at least they can swim fairly fast with their powerful little tails. But once they start to grow and they become sub-adult frogs, they start losing their gills, which means they have to come to the surface to breathe, and the tail starts being absorbed into the body, and the legs start sprouting. And so during this intermediate phase between being an adult frog and a tadpole, they're actually not good at either thing. They can't jump very well because they've got these short, stubby legs, and they can't swim very well because their tail's disappearing, and they can't live in the water because their gills are disappearing. They can't live out the water because their lungs haven't fully developed yet. It's a strange time for a frog, so that's really when they're most vulnerable. You don't often get to see semi or sub-adult frogs just because they spend a long time hiding. I'm not sure. I've never squeezed a nest before. I try to avoid damaging, if I can, anything in nature. So these frogs' nests are filled with potential baby frogs, and so you'd never want to disturb them. But if I see one that is already hatched and it's open and damaged, then I'll go and have a feel. But I don't think it would reshape. No, if you squeezed it and sort of squashed it, it will just stay in the shape that you squashed it in. But it's a good question. I mean, I've touched them before to feel what they feel like, but I've never grabbed one in my whole hand and just crushed it. So not sure. I'm not sure. I also wonder what they taste like. Does it taste like a meringue? I doubt it. Can't be sweet because then everything would want to eat it. Perhaps my next culinary experiment. I'll get Gordon Ramsay involved. Or maybe Jamie Oliver. He seems to like those kind of experimental things. Well, whilst I decide how best to consume the used up egg sacs, I'll send you over to Tswalu.
Welcome back to Tswalu. At the moment, we are lying underneath a tree and looking at one of the smaller components in the ecosystem. And what we have over here is a tiny little conical pit which belongs to an antlion larvae. I just want to show you a little picture over here. This is how he looks like. So you'll notice that he's got incredibly large pinchers that also act as sucking devices on the front of the head. And what he basically is doing is waiting inside these little pits for ants to come past. So once the ant has fallen into this little conical pit, we'll start flicking sand up onto the ant and making him slide back inside. And then they'll stab him with those sharp mouth parts, and they literally suck out the fluids from his body and discard the empty skeleton afterwards. One of the things that I find fascinating is that ants have got incredibly good ability of smell. So as an antlion, you also have to have a few tricks up your sleeve. So one of these tricks that they have is that they actually don't produce any form of waste product, except when they shed their skins and grow into the next phase of their life, when they will get rid of this waste product. Otherwise, these ants will actually detect on them. So these antlion larvae, they can live underneath the ground for quite a while, and once they become adults, they actually obtained a total different lifestyle as an adult, but resembles an insect that almost looks like a dragonfly. I'm just going to point out one or two of the species over here. Although a small number of these conical pits are always seen underneath trees, the majority of all antlion species actually uses a free living system with no conical pit at all. They simply hide underneath the sand, wait for the prey to be in reach, and then ambush them.
From ant lions to actual lions. Ant lions get their name based on looking a bit like an insect version of a lion. Now something's piquing their interest. They all got up and ran, we've repositioned, and we're staying behind them. So you're only really going to get views of the backs of their head, which is not ideal. And I don't want to block whatever they're looking at. I, of course, can't see anything. And there was vultures up ahead. They don't have a kill. So again, that just emphasizes the theory for... calling. It emphasizes the theory for me that the vultures just follow the lions all day, every day. They're highly visual. They're so visual that they can see the lions from far away and they just keep tabs on the lions. They want to know exactly. Very cute. Are you just going to steal that other one's tiny patch of shade? It's not very polite. Miss Sunshine, what a question. All animals are intelligent. I'm not sure how you could possibly think they're not. There's a wonderful, wonderful saying. All animals are intelligent as they need to be. In my eyes, there's no way anything could survive out here without being intelligent, without being able to find food, whether it's through scent, sight, smell. Avoid predators. Again, whether it's through sight, sound, smell. Find a mate in this huge landscape. Find a mate. Successfully mate. Know how to protect your offspring. Even if that means just laying eggs and leaving them, that's still the right choice for that organism. Absolutely. Every species is intelligent. Now, of course, there's different levels of intelligence and cognitive abilities. And there's a big debate about social cats, like lions being the most intelligent of all the cats. So, for example, lions are more intelligent than leopards because they are social, which shows a higher level of cognitive ability, and therefore they can be said to be more intelligent. Now, I disagree with that. Just because they can solve problems and they are social doesn't necessarily mean that they're any more intelligent than a leopard. In my opinion, you're welcome to disagree with me. But although lions are social, and yes, social behavior requires you to recognize one another, again, whether it's through sight, sound, or smell, you got to know your pride. You got to know who's your enemy and who's your friends. Leopards have also got to navigate this area and not be seen. Avoid. Use their sense of smell to avoid the lions, avoid the hyenas, avoid one another. They've got to find mates all on their own. I think that also requires a really high level of intelligence. So yes, lions are intelligent. I think all animals on some level are intelligent. But can you compare between the likes of a leopard and a lion? I'm not so sure. But there's an article, and it's a very wonderful article that does state that lions are more intelligent because they're social. They're all moving off now. They're heading south, which means they're heading further into Djuma. I just don't know what they're looking at. Is it just the rest of the bride? Or is it something else? Alexa, I couldn't possibly answer that question. I really do believe that all animals are intelligent. I really, really do. There's lots of, when it comes to animal intelligence, there's lots of different factors that have been looked at over the years. And one of them was brain size to body ratio. I think they're calling for the rest of the pride. And for me, it's now been very much sort of proven that yes, that is a factor in being intelligent, but it's definitely not the only one, and it's definitely not the only marker that you can look at, brain size to body ratio. Can you hear them? What are you guys up to? Now, the manta ray has the largest brain size to body ratio of all fish. Now, they're said to be highly intelligent, but really, I just don't think that's enough to say, yes, an animal is intelligent because they've got a huge brain in comparison to their body. There definitely has to be other factors that are looked at there. So I think the most intelligent animal, it would be impossible to say. I don't think we know enough. Okay, I'm going to sit tight here a little bit longer and try and figure out where all the talamatis are off to.
Welcome back. We've left that watering hole and we came across this massive bird of prey. You can see it soaring right up above us. You can see it's quite light under the body, under the wings and right through the body, and then it's got a dark trailing edge along the side of the wings. So it's actually a juvenile martial eagle. Busy flying off. What it's doing right now is it's scanning these open areas for prey. So it predominantly feeds on small mammals, things like hares or even small antelope, young baboons. Sometimes monitor lizards are something that it will catch. And then also a variety of birds. You can see it will feed on hard-eared ibises, guinea fowl, quite a variety. So that's what it's busy doing at the moment. You can just see the sheer size of this bird. The biggest bird of prey we get at Phinda. Just slightly bigger in wingspan than a crowned eagle. It weighs about 4 kilograms, so you can imagine that's why it needs to feed on such large animals. To sustain sort of that body weight. Unbelievable. So that is a juvenile martial eagle and will stay in that plumage for the first 7 years until it actually changes over to that lovely black chest and a little bit of black along the wingspan that we're used to seeing with martial eagles. It's absolutely gorgeous day here at Phinda.
They're all moving off now, every single one of them. I don't know what they're up to. But I have a nice quote for you with regards to animal intelligence. Now, I'm a big collector of quotes. It's one of my passions. I love it. I love to collect quotes, books and books of them. And one of them about animal intelligence is, what we observe is not nature in itself, but nature exposed to our method of questioning. And that's by Heisenberg, 1958. I'll let that sit with you for a little while. But just to sort of finish on intelligence, because it's a huge topic, there was a scientist called Thomas Nagel, and he posed, what is it like to be a bat? Baffles you, what is it like to be a bat? There's actually no way we could ever know, no matter how hard we study them. There's no sort of way for us to enter into the subjective life of another species. We can say from a human perspective what it would be like to be a bat. We think it would be like this, echolocation, blah, blah, blah. But do we actually know what it would be like to be a bat? No, we don't. And Nagel actually really wanted to find out how a bat feels to be a bat. Not what a human thinks a bat feels like. I hope this makes sense. And he concluded it is completely beyond our comprehension. And there's another quote that if a lion could talk, Because since we've got some lions here, we would never understand them. We would fail to understand lions even if they spoke our tongue. Sometimes this even happens within the human race, of humans of different cultures. Do we really understand them, even if we know their language? We have limited ability to sort of enter into the lives of others, whether humans that are foreign to us, unknown to us, or different organisms. We can't feel what they feel. We can't perceive what they perceive. But we do need to step out of our own box, our own womb belt, shall we say, and try to apply our imagination to theirs to understand how they navigate the complex world. But will we ever know? No, we don't. Will we ever know what it feels like to be a bat? No, because we're not bats. I hope some of you are not bats. Batman's an exception, but you know, we are a human trying to understand with technology and intelligence and the modern world, trying to understand what it's like to be a bat. But no, we're not bats. That's fascinating. I've got a book. It's a wonderful book. And I read a lot on animal intelligence. Are we smart enough to know how smart animals are? By Franz de Waal, if anyone fancies a good read. I do think we've lost our lions, and this is an incredibly thick block. They've ran south. You know, I have a funny feeling that they will appear on the dam cam later. The dam cam is in that direction. Simon sees another lion. Direction. Lion. So right in that direction where the lions are moving. And the dam cam's just down there. Aha! Is this dark mane by any chance? I see lots of hair that can only suggest one thing. Oh, hello. You're always the last to get up. I apologize, I told you the dominant male was not here. He is here. Chris, you love this pride, me too. I love them both. Equally, I obviously have a firm attachment to the Nkohumas because I've spent a lot more time with them. But they're neighbours. Resided over by the same coalition, and here we have Dark Mane of Oka. It does not surprise me that he's here. Oh, Limpy Lou. Are you still full of hippo? Because that belly still looks remarkably full. I bet you that's still the hippo. He looks a bit stiff there, doesn't he? He has got an injury that seems to have healed, but not the correct way, and it does make it rather challenging for him to walk. And I think sometimes when he's been lying down for prolonged periods of time, he gets stiff there. There's not enough mobility in the joint. I think it's healed the complete wrong way, and he gets a little stiff. But he is mobile. I mean, we saw him on a hippo carcass not so long ago, and now he's on Juma. The females didn't carry him, I promise. Although I'm sure he would love it if they did. Oh, it's so good to see you, boy. I didn't know you were here. Sorry about all the technical difficulties that Juma faced, but I think overall it has been another fantastic drive across all the different locations. So it's important for me to say thank you. Thank you to you all for jumping on board, your comments and questions, and please do join us this afternoon. Have a great day. I'm having a wonderful afternoon. We finally solved the mystery of Princess Tlalamba up here. We've located the kill, a different kill from before, and she's obviously up this marula resting. So that's my plan for today.